Welcome everyone to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. And of course, I have brought a load of friends with us today, and we even have a special guest that's going to be joining us. And yes, this is the second to last podcast of the week for Mr. Boom. Mrs. Boom was on vacation. We're gonna do some hiking, go out and do some shopping, eat some good food, and just hang out before she has to go back to work next week. But I'm so excited for today's show, folks. I didn't have breakfast with Boom this Friday because, again, Mrs. Boom was supposed to be off. They called her into work, and she even had to go in on Saturday, which was awful. But listen, I know you saw the pictures. I had one of the best weekends I can say in a real long time. My nephew, Tyler, who is the second love of my life, was here. He spent the weekend with us with Josie's sister, who is awesome. And we had a blast, so much so that not only did this kid unlock 35 missing fighters in Smash Brothers in under an hour because he's a genius kid, but he did something that I didn't think it was possible. And folks, I'm so addicted to Animal Crossing that I went out and bought a controller to match the game because I've been playing since Sunday like a crack fiend, bro. Like the Nooks, that's the mafia, bro. And I just paid off my house, and I'm very excited. I just paid off my house, and I'm looking to expand, so I'm going to owe them some more money. But listen, let's get into the introductions and, of course, making his return, which is awesome, which means that we did the right thing to get him to come back here. One bad mother from Xbox era. What's up, man? Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Boom. It was a lot of fun last time, so that's why I'm back again today. Obviously, you know, when we talked before, I was going to be out on vacation. Something happened last second. I had everything packed up and ended up getting delayed for a week. I was about to go visit my parents. So if anybody notices like my monitor is missing behind me, that's because I was ready to go on a trip. But it's great to be with you guys. And this is giving me a couple hours break from Hades. So, you know, we'll save my carpal tunnel at least a couple more hours. So
you know what? You know what? Surprisingly enough, I'm right there with you. I put, I want to say a significant amount of time. I beat the second boss in Hades, which and I'm not a rogue guy. I have come to the realization that game is just not for Boom. Having to lose all my stuff, and I had such a great build. I was crushed when I lost, and having to do all these bosses again. I'm like, you know what? Good on you if you want this kind of abuse. I'm out of this relationship, but we will continue with the introductions. And you know what? This past Saturday, I had an opportunity to hang out with Kay Asante, who had teamed up with our good brother Slow-Mo Backslap. And it was I was actually originally only going to be there for like 20 minutes. I wound up staying for like 90 minutes, which was crazy. But I had a great time. Kay Asante, welcome back, brother.
Good evening, folks. Yeah, Boom. It was so fun having you just jump in the chat, jump in our stream with us. It just kind of happened. We were just having a great conversation, and you happened to want to jump in, and it was real cool. We had a great time. So shout out to Slow-Mo. I know Everborn had to take some time off, so yes, it was good to get a second share, and he represented quite well. The slander was kept to a minimum, at least the non-PC slander. That is, we had some fun. It was a good conversation. So yes, thank you so much for having me on as usual. I'm enjoying being on the panel. One Bad Mother, I appreciate having you back on. Gentlemen, you know it's going to be another fun evening, so let's get started.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Neverborn Saga. We missed you on Saturday, brother, but obviously family time, super, super important. It's great to have you back here. I know you yourself are going to have a lot to say on the two main topics. And the reason why there are only two main topics is because this panel is stacked with people, with gamers who have incredible opinions. And these two topics that I picked, that I wrote for today's show, are really hot. And we're going to probably take an hour or potentially a little bit more for each one. But Everborn, welcome back, dude. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Listen, Saturday took the whole family out. There were like 15 of us.
That's awesome.
We went to a Japanese bathhouse, sort of. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those.
No.
It's very cool. It's kind of like spas. These it's a kind of relaxation retreat kind of thing. So I got the detox massage with the lady. Got it for the in-laws too. It was a whole
That
thing.
sounds
So
awesome, man.
I feel refreshed.
You know what though? I'm going to tell you something. All of that awesomeness went out the window when you were attacked this weekend for trying to drop logic on people from the community.
They don't want that because people can't read. But
I never drop facts and logic. Facts and logic don't work.
I have vowed, because in my own hubris, I thought I could provide context into conversations that people were trying to make into black and white things. And in my own hubris, I jumped into several shark's nests all week. But I am now learning, and I will wade into those waters much
Gingerly.
less. Yes, much less. Only good faith conversations going forward. Because Kay Asante reminded me that I was sullying the Everborn brand.
Yes.
Oh, ooh.
Very good. Very good. Well,
Right?
listen,
Go.
we're happy to have you back.
And
Thankfully,
one last thing.
Go
I
ahead.
missed Saturday. I take off 1 week, and the Gaming Circle podcast turns into a PCMR shit show. They almost got you getting a PC, Boom. I heard that. I listened to the show. They think I didn't listen, but I listened, and we will not have that. I will not have it.
The mag is like, no, it's only for spreadsheet and taxes.
That's exactly it. PCs are for spreadsheets and taxes. Don't listen to anybody else.
I did. I actually did claim this, but
and VR games. But that will be corrected post haste next Saturday.
Well, listen, we look forward to that, and of course, joining us, returning back from last week, who we had to drop out the last minute. He had a multitude of problems. He's back. Middle-aged gamer guy.
Yes.
People are excited to have you back because these two topics are hot, and I expect that you're going to be even hotter once we get to you about them.
Oh, well, you know what? Good evening, Boom, chat, panel, and of course, our guest, OBM. Once again, you're becoming a regular, brother. Everywhere I turn, you're on a podcast, and it's great to see you again, guys. We got some great topics, and yes, things are going to get a little spicy, a little, fired up. I had last week off, had some automotive technicalities I had to deal with, but they're settled now. But anyhow, yes, we got a great show for you guys tonight, and Everborn, I don't understand how you got all this. You got all this heat on you about what you do, and I put out these like extremely inflammatory videos, and no one seems to tell me and say anything to me. So you know what I think the advice is? Make them be afraid of you, and then they won't talk. They won't talk smack about you.
I tried. I think you catch more people with more flies with honey than vinegar, right? Like I don't think that I'm overly I don't think I'm over the top. I think I'm pretty middle of the road with this stuff. I feel like I'm always the guy,
top, brother. So you wait till the rest of this week.
I feel like I'm always the guy defending Sony on this show, and still I get I
think the issue at hand and what we've witnessed, and folks, I'm not even making a joke of this. The one thing as a former police officer that a lot of people look over or look under or look side to the left or the right is mental illness. It's a real thing, folks. There are a lot of people with undiagnosed mental illness, and unfortunately, the interwebs being the way that they are, it gives people a voice that is usually unchecked. And this is what happens when you say something about when you're trying to use logic and it goes over someone's head. It isn't because they're stupid. It's because there might be some sort of mental illness that's there that is, firing off the wrong cylinders in their brain that's making it seem like you're attacking them. So a lot of the times what I do in situations, and I've been in quite a few of them, I completely disengage.
Exactly.
And I think that's the best way to do it because the console war thing is real. People do take this stuff way, way too serious. But you know what? We're not going to get into that. What we are going to get into is the last member of this panel who's recently joined, who has had some really big things happen to his channel. Obviously, he got the 1,000 subs. He got the 1 year on the air, which is super important, and he continues to see massive growth. Obviously, a part of that growth came into what he did last year that he's looking to do this year, and that is the indie show. Wandering Dutch, welcome back, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was awesome having you on the podcast last week as well.
Right.
Another last minute jump in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But it was awesome. Yeah, awesome. Because we have been trying to get you on for a while, so it was good to just be able to get you on for pretty much the full show.
Yes.
Which was absolutely awesome. But yeah, great to be back. Awesome to have One Bad Mother on again. It was really good having you on last time. Really good conversations, and some two really good topics on tonight as well. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. Awesome set of panelists as usual. Great to have Mag back, so I don't have to do the shouting this week. But yeah, awesome, and a massive thank you to everyone watching as well. Over 135 so far. Make sure everybody share it out, drop a like. You know what it is.
Thank you.
But let's get into it.
Yeah, well, listen, before we get into the topic, and again, it's a spicy one, Flame drops the first super chat of the evening, and it's for $5. Thank you so much, dude. He says, wait, Mag is back? How is he going to be himself if he has to be quiet and not wake up the sleeping PS5 in the next room? Have a great show, folks. And, of course, our good friend Gerald Mack drops a $2 super chat, says, hashtag Xbox got all of the games. Indeed, they do, my friend. And folks, listen, I'll say this, and of course I have this in the notes. If 2021 is going to be remembered by anything, right? Normally, I should say, we would think Halo Infinite's release. That's going to be a big part of the 2021 conversation. The Switch OLED announcement that a lot of people like myself went out and pre-ordered. And we're not getting the HD Switch that we had heard of. Or, of course, one of my favorite things to get behind, and we have gotten behind this in a big way, is the official release of Song of Iron, which is coming out August 31st. And Mrs. Boomstick and I, to support Joe in his long road, we are purchasing 10 copies.
Oh, nice.
And giving away all 10 copies live on the air. I'm trying to get him on that particular show, which is the Tuesday show for the 31st of August. And again, Mrs. Boom and I, we are buying the copies. He's not providing any of that. We want to support him. We want to support the sale of that game. And again, we're going to give away. And all you got to do is tune in, and we will randomly pick 10 people, and you'll win a copy of that game, which I'm going to be reviewing for the channel, which I'm very excited about. But unfortunately, folks, the PlayStation community is one that hasn't had much to cheer about for almost the entire 21 campaign. Now, granted, depending on where you stand, Returnal is either a yay or a nay. There's a lot to be said about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is going to be in my top 10 of 2021. I'm a platformer guy. I really do enjoy it. But that released in June. And since then, there hasn't been much PlayStation news. Though there's been a lot of embarrassing stuff going on, and that comes at the heels of the Blue Box Game Studios title, Abandon, a real-time experience. And I gotta tell you, as anyone who has, like myself, who has seen it all in the past 40 years of gaming that I've been involved in the industry, or well, not so much the industry, but the hobby, I've never been witness to one of the biggest cluster Fs in gaming PR in the history of gaming, folks. After numerous delays and continued community disappointments, their long-awaited trailer was finally released, and it was 4 seconds long, folks. You saw someone's loafers, they looked kind of brown, and a wet floor, and that's it. And obviously, it was complete nonsense. Now, of course, I want to bring up what I told when I said in the advertising the storied history of this game. I'm not kidding around, folks. And of course, you got to bring the documentation to the to the conversation, which is what I'm going to do right now. And okay, so here's the thing. I don't have the poster's name. If anyone in the chat or on the panel knows who this person is, you please let me know so I can give them a proper shout out, because this took some work, folks. Now, of course, the advertising says, "Be careful, Blue Box is a big scam. And if you want to know what Blue Box stands for, it's Best Level User Experience Game Studios. Well, apparently, according to the documentation I have in front of me, in 2015, they announced a horror game called Rewind. They delayed the playable teaser for this game because of technical issues. They said it was going to have VR, then announced they canceled the VR. The original Kickstarter was canceled. Of course, the game never released and the website was deleted. In 2015, again, they announced a PC exclusive horror game called The Lost Tape. Said it will stream gameplay soon. The game never came out, and it was deleted from the website. 2017 announces a new horror game, The Whisperer, coming out for June 2017. And since then, the game went dead silent. In 2017, it never released. In 2018, announces multiplayer horror game called Unseen Faces. And once again, that game wasn't released. In 2019, folks, releases a broken mobile app called The Tales of the Six Swords. Apparently, they stole an anime character's art and made it the app's icon. They had to take that down. Said in an update that this they said in an update is coming to this now non-working app, and then they removed the app from the store in 2020. They release a horrible horror game called The Haunting on Steam Early Access. The game receives 100% negative reviews. They remove the buy button. They say a big update is coming very soon, delays the update, and guess what, folks? The update was never released. They quit development on the game and gave the game to, I believe it's Critique. It's Create with a Q, Interactive to finish it. This is okay. So here we are, 2021, folks. They announced the new horror game Abandon. Said that the PS5 real-time app will be available August 10th. They had technical issues and they're working to resolve it. And they delayed it indefinitely until, of course, they released the 4-second trailer. Folks, I'm not making this stuff.
Boom. I think you are misclassifying it. It was an interactive experience.
Okay.
we need to give the people the facts.
Well, yeah. So I thought I provided enough facts, but you're absolutely correct. Let's put the cherry on top of this delicious banana boat sundae. OBM. This is a story that your fine folks over at the Xbox Era have been covering. You've talked about it. I mean, look, a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about specifically how Xbox handles smaller development teams and how they help them. And I actually called out Sony on this. I said, someone from Sony should have got up and said, hey, listen, where are you guys running into a problem? Let's try and fix this. But after reading, and of course, that was after I had all those notes in front of me, it turns out that if I was Sony, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. Where do you fall with what's going on with this studio?
Well, I mean, I guess the first place I start is, looking at this situation. Obviously, we have an interesting track record, and I guess the first thing that pops up as you're reading all that is, where are they continuing to get this funding? Because obviously something's keeping that studio afloat, and
right.
It doesn't seem to be results. So. That is an interesting. I mean, it is an interesting takeaway, because I think one of the things that does show is there's a lot of money being pumped into the gaming industry right now, and a lot of studios are getting funding, a lot of indies, and we talked about the indie stuff, a lot, and we talked about it in the previous show that I was on. How where this industry is going and how important a lot of these developers are, and how there's a lot of hidden superstars out there. And I just have to make the assumption that people just they've been very good at selling whatever it is they're pitching, and the people are hungry to find the next big thing. And I think that you're going to see a lot of those next big things over the next few years. And I said it before, I don't think people are even really I think people's expectations are too low in terms of what's going to come out of the independent sector. So, but from a business standpoint, I think a lot of businesses are willing to take a lot of risks in here in this area, and obviously they saw something that that they were able to sell something there. In terms of where I would put it with Sony, it's really hard to kind of characterize. There's thousands of developers out there. There's a lot of independents, and I think it's near impossible for any of the platforms to be able to cultivate everything out there. Yes, I do think Xbox has been doing a very good job the last few years, and that's an area I think that they definitely need to get some more credit on, especially as we start to see some of these developers step out and say to give some credit there, and that is something to take notes from. But at the same time, I do think there's still going to be the fair share of developers out there that are not going to land with this one. Again, I feel we know. I mean, if you've been through the workplace enough time, we've all known the person that talks a good game, gets really excited, they believe everything they say, and they get everybody else to believe everything they say. And sometimes their ideas are bigger than what they can execute. And it sounds like that's what the case is here. Obviously, they do believe in themselves, but I feel like this sounds like a situation where the hype really went to their head. They could have squashed this Kojima thing a long time ago. They didn't. And I think it's unfortunate for the people within the studio. Obviously, the leader ends up, he's the face of it. I do feel for anybody else who's like working there that's, feels like crap based on the situation they're in. But obviously, the leader does own a lot of what's happened in this particular situation. And yeah, I do, but I also just pin this really on the leader of that studio more than anybody else. Again, with the information we have, I don't know, how, we've seen bigger studios not able to sometimes, come up and fulfill their promises, and projects get canceled a lot of times behind the scenes. I think this is something that probably just needed to stay hidden for longer than it did.
I mean, I definitely think that you're onto something with that. There's no doubt that this definitely falls at the heels, or the shoes, if you will, brown shoes for that matter, of what of the leader of the game. But you know what? I want to bring in middle-aged gamer guy. Right into the conversation. We'll welcome you right back in. Now, look, obviously, the man behind Blue Box Game Studios has a storied history of lies, deceptions, and failure. I mean, it's. I mean, if you look at his Twitter, he's been a part of Twitter since 2013, and he's only just recently started tweeting. So he had the account, and he never really what was on social media until, of course, these games. Recently he got involved in the conversation. To OBM's point, what's incredible is for so many months now, PlayStation gamers have been trying to deduct that Hideo Kojima is somehow involved, even after the announcement on Twitter that said otherwise. Here's that statement. It says, "We wanted to set things straight. We have no relations to Konami. Silent Hill is owned by Konami. We do not have any relations with Hideo Kojima. It was never our intention to tease the name as Silent Hill. We sincerely apologize." But see, that statement is BS, because the original thing was pushing as if they were doing a Silent Hill game. It turns out that that obviously is not the case. And this is where it gets even worse for this studio, and I want you to run with this, Mag.
Yeah.
Former head of Sony, Sean Layden, got in on the conversation this weekend, and this is what he had to say, short and sweet. As my British friends might say, the silly season is surely upon us.
Yeah.
What do you say to this title, and more so to these PlayStation gamers that went and bought an extra box of Reynolds wrap and wrapping their heads, their arms, their bodies, and saying that Kojima is somehow involved in this?
First of all, Aren't you glad I'm back for this topic?
Oh,
boy,
yes.
Oh, boy. Now, let me tell you something. Actually, tune in tomorrow on my Twitter. I got some inflammatory situation coming up, a new video that I filmed. And it's got to do with this subject exactly. So if you want a couple laughs, come see me. You want to get salty? Come see me. But anyways, real-time experience, more like real-time disaster. Can you imagine? All right, these guys who were streaming live because they thought it was gonna like Hideo Kojima was gonna jump out of like a giant like birthday cake and all of a sudden gonna announce his new game, and then they're just faced with the like technical difficulties that never happened. I feel sorry for those guys. I feel bad for them. I really do. But because it's not their fault. But I mean, man, to build up something that didn't exist is beyond me. And like, we're not even talking like even an ounce of conjecture. Like this didn't exist. They're literally pulling this out of thin air. There were no breadcrumbs. Oh, I mean, okay, there were a couple things that made me kind of raise my eyebrow. Like, that's weird. Like, there were a couple things like, oh, look at that sign on the wall that looks like the Kojima whatever. What the hell is that? The Kojima engine, blah, 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 blah. And all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe.
The Ludens.
Yeah.
Badge.
But, like, it's the same thing as, like, watching The Wizard of Oz and listening to Pink Floyd and be like, Pink Floyd wrote it because of Wizard of Oz. You know, if you match them up and you get high, and oh man, it all matches up. It just, if you're high enough, you can believe it, okay? But anyway, besides all that nonsense, I gotta give this Blue Box one thing. When it comes to the reviews, being 100% negative, at least they're consistent. So, you know.
I mean, there's that.
You know, so there's that. But here's the other thing. This is the thing that actually bothers me a little bit. As a company, Sony should have been a lot more responsible because it's their name attached to this. It's their mind share that is attached to this. It is, you know, their fans who are on the hook for this. And I blame all responsibility, not on Blue Box. I actually blame it on Sony because Sony should not have allowed it to get to this point. What happened when No Man's Sky, which was originally a PlayStation exclusive for that, whatever, 1 year, whatever.
Oh, dude, they pulled immediately away from that game.
No pun intended. How fast did Sony abandon them?
Yeah.
Okay. They just said, you know what? You screwed up. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Asante. Yeah. They screwed. Not you guys. It was one guy. And like, you screwed up this and that, whatever. They washed their hands of it and they say, you fix this. We're pulling this. And they just, okay. They didn't mess around because it was their reputation. Okay, it was their stamp of approval on there. And whether or not it's an indie or a AAA title, third-party title, first-party title, it's like that Nintendo seal of approval. There's a lot of responsibility behind that seal. So the thing is now, like I said, it's not a Sony first-party game. However, it is Sony's image. And they should have been a hell of a lot more interactive with this developer to find out what he's doing, how he's doing it. Let me see what you're about to put on the air. I want to see it first. If I'm the boss, you ain't putting nothing on the internet until I've seen it first and reviewed it. It's your vision, cool, but I want to see it. It's our money. It's our store. It's our reputation. It's our name. I want to see it. Okay, that's like Phil Spencer just being like some guy, I don't know, some developer, and all of a sudden the guy's like, yeah, I'm just going to launch this like live event, whatever. And Phil's just like, yeah, whatever. And it doesn't pay attention to what happens. Do you think that would ever happen? No, that's going to pass from hand to hand to hand to hand. Yeah. And it's got to be reviewed. It's got to be checked for quality. Okay, it's got to be checked to make sure that there are no technical glitches, all that kind of stuff. So it is 100% Sony, not 100%, but it's mostly Sony's fault for allowing this to get this far. Because now
it spiraled out of control for quite some time, Mag.
It did. And the other thing that actually bothers me is that why didn't Sony squash the whole Hideo Kojima thing? And that's another thing that actually really pisses me off. And I actually believe that they let that go on because any press is good press, right? It kept their name with no games on the horizon after Ratchet and Clank. Okay. And then they damn well knew that Forbidden West wasn't coming. They let people talk about this stuff. You know why? Because it got, like I said, any news is good news, right? So this is all PR work for them to like, let them talk, let them do whatever. It just keeps the Sony name in the mind share, on social media, on podcasts. The fact that we're talking about it now, it's worked, right? So they should have come out months ago and said, this got nothing to do with it. Hideo Kojima's not part of this. It's not Castlevania. It's not this. This is the game. This is the game you're getting. But they didn't do that. And I think they just kind of enjoyed the little three-ring circus that was going around it because, like I said, it kept their name in the mindshare of social media. And that's what they wanted, especially when you have nothing other than a 3-month exclusive that's coming up, Kena Bridge of Spirits coming up. The other thing that baffles me, though, quickly,
is Kena only 3 months?
From what I understand, Kena is PlayStation 5 and PC, and the word on the street is that it's 90-day exclusivity.
Really?
And I've heard that from more than one. I've heard that from about 4 or 5 different prominent people.
Bookmark that one for another day.
You know what?
Boy.
Here's the thing.
I guess I'm not buying that one. I thought.
No. Just hey,
No,
I'm
I'm
not saying it's scripture. But I've heard it from 4 or 5 very prominent people that saying that there's only a 90-day exclusivity. Take a look at it, like look it up, Google it, look at it. You'll find some articles about it, but I'm not going to say who told me. But
let us
either way,
bookmark this right here and move on.
I would prefer to play that with offset joysticks. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm just saying that's a thing. But what baffles me, I didn't want to get off topic there, but what baffles me is that it's fine. Is that why did Sony back this horse? That's the thing that I don't get. There were so many other incredible indie games out there that they could have backed. They could have backed, I don't know how far back the contracts went for like Game Pass or whatever, but I'm saying they could have backed games like Omno, like Raji, like The Ascent. They could have backed all those different, Hades even. They could have got exclusivity for a year. Who knows? Whatever. They could have done something, but
because they don't care about the indies anymore, brother. That's exactly why.
They seem to have backed this horse and it blew up in their face.
You know why? Because it was a game that what they thought would look photorealistic and didn't look like an indie. The problem they've got is they keep trying to push this agenda that you have to be some AAA looking.
Well, you heard Jim Ryan actually say that. See, I mean, again, I don't really want to go off down this path, but you're onto something, Dutch. But specifically, Jim Ryan says they want to focus on AAA, big budget, realistic looking games. And when he said that, he basically spit in the face of the indie community, at least in my opinion. And remember how close net that they were during the PlayStation 4 first couple of years because they didn't have their first party quote unquote bangers that were out towards the end of the PlayStation 4. So yeah, this is a thing. This isn't a suggestion. This is a fact, Dutch.
Well, you see that if that were, let's say, in case, I actually that makes a lot of sense. Okay, what Dutch just said, and the thing is with that is that if that is the case, how short-sighted and how narrow-minded is the business view that you think that only the big, huge Hollywood hits, which they will be hits, let's face it, okay?
Yeah.
You'd be lying to yourself if you don't think that Spider-Man 2 is going to be a massive game. Of course it will be. God of War 2, Horizon Forbidden West, they're all going to be amazing games. Whatever the hell Naughty Dog's doing next, right? And on and on and on and on and on. And Uncharted 5, blah, 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 blah. They're all going to be massive, amazing games. But at the end of the day, if you've got 6 to 8 of those in one generation, what are you doing filling in the gaps? You got to fill them in with something. Like the thing is, there's a ton of supplemental income to be made in other avenues of this business. It is not just those $150 to $200 million games. And I just don't understand it. I'm not criticizing. I just don't understand the mindset. But yes, I think Dutch is right. It has that photorealistic look to it and everything else, whatever. They might have backed, and look what happened. They backed the wrong horse. And this is the other thing. With their history, the fact that Boom just told us their history, how the hell did Sony not see their history?
Yeah, that's a great
Boom
point.
knows it. He doesn't work for a corporation. What, Sony didn't know that these guys
You know why? You know why? And I think it goes back to the indie issues that we spoke about previously, where they are allocated some kind of account manager. That account manager is meant to be in touch with them, etc. So they're probably just, you can put your game on PlayStation. They've had some kind of basic marketing deal to go along with it. And then they haven't worked with them. They haven't really done the references properly. But that's because it's an indie. That's the problem. If it was a AAA, it would be a different story altogether. They haven't vetted the studio.
You see how out of touch they are, though? Yeah. What I was saying earlier in my little spiel there is that how did nobody review this? They just let them have an event?
Yep.
with nobody looking into it, saying, "Yeah, cool, go for it." Can we look into this? It just shows that they're like, and it's fine with the Jim Ryan thing. If he wants to be the businessman, he wants to be the money man. Great. He kind of remind, kind of like Bobby Kotick. I guarantee he's never picked up a controller in his life. Okay, but he's a numbers guy.
Yeah, oh yeah,
right?
he's definitely a
And that's
numbers
fine.
guy.
If that's what makes the company money, go right ahead, do whatever. All that other, legal nonsense aside, I'm just talking about from the business aspect. If they're doing that with Jim Ryan as well, and he's just the numbers guy, great. Then have somebody else in there who's picked up a controller or knows PR or understands how to put on a show. And then you have to watch the quality control of what's happening. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, good stuff is always. Let's bring in Kay Asante into the conversation, and then we'll bring Dutch on the back end of that. Kay Asante, what are people to think now? And again, I know a lot of people say, good press, bad press, good for gaming. You know what? I don't know, man. I'm in the camp that bad press is bad press, and right now, Sony don't got nothing going on, so it's not good.
Alarm bells are ringing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on the breakdown of this storied history of failure from this studio?
So far, the panel has basically summed it up pretty nicely. And actually has summed it up pretty well put it together for me. I think. I mean, we've seen my thoughts on all of this. Whenever this stuff tends to come up, is people keep putting the historical information, the historical context into it, and feeling either good or worried based on what they remember of Sony or what they remember of Microsoft. And I keep trying to remind folks, these two companies, specifically these two companies, and actually all three of them now, are the same in name alone. So much of their leadership has changed. So much of their marketing people have changed. Look at the once great, as we've been talking back and forth about what befouled Mr. Everborn Saga over the weekend. One of the conversations that were had in that room was the fact that Sony is the name of gaming, right?
Yes.
People are so used to gaming on PlayStation that PlayStation is the name of gaming. How did they become that name? By becoming the place where you play everything.
Yes.
By literally making it the best place to play all kinds of things, right? Both indies and AAAs. AAAs were once in a blue moon. That's why they were so special, right? Besides that, it was a bunch of weird stuff, a bunch of third parties, and a bunch of weird, eclectic, interesting things, right? For so long. That's what filled that library, right? Now look at them, though, right? Just like you can speak of all the failures of Xbox in years past. Now look at PlayStation and look at all of the continuous weird, horrible decisions being made, right? Exactly as the panel has already rightfully said from jump. A couple weeks ago we talked about the idea that all of a sudden they're abandoning all their indie support, right? People are fighting. Some very reputable, very experienced indies in the environment came out and spoke about how just getting support from them was becoming more and more difficult, right?
Yeah.
They have to pay a lot more and all of that stuff, right? Now we turn around and there's these guys who, of course, again, as you guys have rightly pointed out, Mr. Boomstick in his greatness, he is not Sony backed, right? He does not have the deep pockets that Sony does, right? But still, with a little light research, the rap sheet is clearly visible, right? You can see it, right? He was able to easily regurgitate it, not too far off, right? And I'm sure that Sony, if they really cared, there would be a lot more detailed of the background they could do. So what happened here? What's the deal here? How is it that some of the most prominent names in gaming and in indies are having such a hard time getting represented, but these guys who clearly do not deserve the attention got all of the attention? And of course, One Bad Mother also brings out a very good point. How do they keep getting funding? This is all very interesting, is it not? First off, there's this weird company who always has a little bit in the tank but never ends up delivering. Pause. But then ends up somehow, getting a hold of this company who clearly like runs everything with an iron fist. I mean, we've heard it from all over the place. These are the guys that want to see what's in your books so they know how much they can charge you. You know, this is Sony. They control every aspect of the industry, right? To the point where people are complaining. But somehow they let this out of nowhere indie studio put an app on the PS5, the coveted space, you know, with no proof that this thing would work, you know, and then issue after issue after issue, and then still they're quiet, nothing, as if, you know, one day you'll know the master plan and all of this will make sense to you. And so far, I'm still confused, you know. So I guess what my point on all this is, you know, the whole idea that we should always just use historical information to either inform ourselves and go, oh yeah, we'll be fine because it's PlayStation. We might kind of want to rethink that, because this stuff is building up. It's becoming a bit of an issue, you know. I'm not saying that somehow, you know, it's all coming apart, it seems, or something, but there's a lot of these things popping up, you know, and somehow Kenna is the last really big thing to look forward to, you know. Very unusual moves by Sony, you know, a company that has historically, there we go again, historically had such a good handle on this stuff, right? It has been rightly pointed out many times that it's Microsoft that actually needs to they need to prove themselves, because Sony has rightfully done so. So
Yeah.
What happened here? It really looks like the deck chairs have changed, and all of a sudden Sony has become Microsoft, and Microsoft has become Sony for some reason. You know, I'm just finding this all very interesting. You know, these guys are clearly grifters. You know, you've been able to point that out quickly. You know, I'm surprised that the billion-dollar company wasn't able to see that, and still to this day have not spoken about it. The app is still there on the store. There's something going on with this.
Definitely.
You know, I'm hoping that Schreier can clear things up for
Well,
us.
maybe. When OBM, you want to add something to the conversation there, OBM?
Yeah, no. I can't help it, being like a data and analytics guy. You know, I've been brainwashed into saying correlation doesn't equal causation. So I'm like, so I'm listening to a few different things, and I actually wanted to bring, you know, maybe a little bit more background about the whole abandoned thing, and also say that I think there's two different things like we're talking about, and we're kind of correlating them a little bit. And, you know, one of those, the reason why it jumps to mind is, you know, when we talk about, you know, Sony and their relationship with independents, I think we've heard from some developers that is absolutely an opportunity for them to improve. And that is something that Microsoft and Nintendo are doing a much better job at right now, is cultivating those relationships, being able to highlight them, work with those developers. And that is a little bit of a separate story from what's happening with Abandoned. But I think the reason why we correlate that, right? Like the reason we tie these things together is because I think the consistent issue really around the brand right now has been a messaging one, and it has been being proactive with that, right? Like we saw this on the other side with Xbox last generation. A lot of times people start to correlate a lot of things going wrong with that really are completely unrelated, but they just, if you don't message it right or you don't control that messaging, I think people start to tie it all together. Like, oh, this has to do with their relationships with indies. You know, we heard this year, I remember hearing like some podcasts and even some YouTube videos, even from some people that are, you know, predominantly leading Xbox platform, you know, came out and says, well, you know, Microsoft is responsible for some of these games that are launching on Game Pass that are from third parties and they're day one and they're not working. And they own that. And I think maybe there is something to that they could probably start to become more proactive in making sure that stuff works. But at the same time, my answer to that was always, well, they got to manage their own studios. Yeah, yes. There's going to be somebody there that's going to manage those independent relationships. That's basically going to play the role of the Shark Tank and go, all right, I'm picking you and you and you. And sometimes you're not going to pick right. You're going to pick somebody that's going to look good. They're going to give you a good spiel. And just like a lot of businesses, you know, you're going to invest sometimes in a bunch of them, and a few of them are not going to work out. And I think this is just probably one of those cases where, you know, where Sony picked this relationship to highlight, and then it didn't work out. I don't know that I would read too far. You know,
I completely, I'm sorry, I not to cut you off. I just want to add one part of that. I completely agree with you on that. What surprises me as the tech guy, what surprises me is usually when you're bringing me code to then display to production, I get to see it first before I bring it to production. There is no, hey, you somehow stream it to them without me ever touching it, because there's a lot of potential for mistake there. And these guys know this. They know this. That's what surprises me.
Yeah, I think there's some lessons to be learned. I definitely I can agree with that. But at the same time, I again, this goes to some of the things that I heard when I sit hearing the same criticism towards Microsoft about some of these games launching broken from third parties, and I'm like, from what I've heard from people is that they really don't have none of these platforms have the resources to really dive in and do like in-depth testing. It's it's a lot more limited than that, and there's a lot of times they just have to have faith in these relationships, and again, they're going to pay. All these platforms are going to have winners and losers, right? That's just what it is. And I think this obviously is a loser as far as the relationship. I'm not going to push back on that. This is obviously a bad look. But I think it really kind of piles on, like if some of the other messaging was on, I think this would be like a non-issue. Where this really where I was listening to Mag kind of talk about the background of this game and who's at fault. Obviously I'm interactive on a lot of forums. We have Xbox era forums. I also know about the other era forums, the lesser era. And so I saw where this kind of thing originated from. Like there was rumors of Silent Hill, then there was rumors of it going to be a Sony exclusive, and people were just trying to connect the dots. And I think this kind of was wished into existence. And when this developer was pinned with, "Hey, this is who we think is making it," I think a lot of people jumped on that, and the developers probably were seeing the spike in engagement and were like, "Holy shit!" Like this isn't something that the small developer that's failed at everything is probably even expecting. And obviously, they let it go too far. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really. For me, I don't correlate the two. I think this does exist in a vacuum. I do think this is kind of a situational thing. It was originated by a lot of fans that were really hoping that they found where the Silent Hill exclusive resided, and so they're trying to tie it to that. And I heard even Grub talk about it. It's people kind of desiring it because they heard the relationship with Kojima and Xbox, and we're trying to figure out something on their side for the whole sport of it. But at the end of the day, I don't really think either Microsoft or Sony can own every single independent developer's missteps, every single broken game, every single miscommunication. Obviously, I think there is something to learn from this. And I think if somebody's tying their brand to yours heavily, or you start to feel that, maybe you should dive in more, right? And that might be a learning thing going forward. But in hindsight, that's something that's easy to say. I think going into it though, who would have I'm sure they weren't sitting there going, I've never experienced anything like this. How do you actually, even as somebody who's in data and analytics, how do you prepare for something there's no history of, right? So that's why I do kind of give it, I think this really is it. I look at where the story originated, and I look at really who owns it. And I really do think, the studio, the head of the studio specifically, owns 95% of this. And that's, as much as I love listening to Mag kind of go, I grab my popcorn and listen to him go. I had to push back on that little aspect of it.
You know what though, OBM, they got to have somebody to screen the stuff though. I know that there's no history with it and whatever else, but they didn't have someone sit down and say, let's have some quality control. That's all I'm asking, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that is your name. Sony's name is on this,
and it's not just like a simple trailer or something like that you can just be showing. This is some interactive application. Why are they so special?
That wasn't at a Sony show, right?
And it's magnified.
No, but my point is, it's an app you download. Why not just show? There's the PlayStation Store, this PlayStation YouTube channel, like you do multiple times. Show this great trailer that you have, right? Why all this elaborate stuff as if they know what they're doing when clearly they didn't? I don't get it.
And the thing is, it was magnified because of the fact that it's the dead of summer. There's no news of anything coming. Sony's been very quiet for months, right? So everybody's building it up and building it up and building it up. They should have been more on top of it. I mean, I know you're not expecting people to fail, but my God, how many people work at Sony? You can't have one guy sit down and check it out.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess you. But
that's all I'm saying. That's all.
The only thing I go back to there is just like again, I'm pretty consistent in terms of like first understanding the situation. There's going to be games that are going to release from independents that are going to be temporary exclusive day one and Game Pass that are not going to always going to fit the bill either. And I just realized they probably resource wise, they're going to place their bets, and sometimes they're going to trust them. And this studio is probably not going to get another deal with Sony in the future, or Microsoft, or maybe anybody. And that's really just all that. I think that's all it comes down to.
Based on their history, it looks like they have the skills to keep somehow pulling it out. We shall see.
Well, at least getting interviews really well.
at least getting the funding for sure. But Dutch, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Where do you fall? And I'm bringing in Everborn last, specifically because he is a small business owner, and I'm really interested to hear his point of view from protecting your own brand and then also putting out the smoke when there's apparently a huge bonfire. But Dutch, you have seen this situation completely spiral out of control. It went from, we got something big for you. This is when it's supposed to come out, and it's been one apology after another apology after another apology on social media, and they can't seem to get it right. Where do you fall with this?
So completely ignoring the whole Kojima smokescreen stuff that they've been doing, ignoring that entirely. The one key thing that I've taken away from this is throughout all of these mishaps, unreleased games, released games that never got fixed and then removed from the store, etc. There's never been a full team that's actually come out and stood by this particular game or tried to stand up for it at all in any way, shape, or form. It's only ever one man, Hassan. And there's that in itself is a bit of a strange one to me. If you're claiming to have this great team behind you that are working on it, surely some of that team will come out and say, listen, this is, and not just Hassan, why would only one man from a studio of indies come out and talk about this game when you've got a full, I know myself from working with indies that you don't, even if it's a small group of indies, there's always 1, 2, or 3 people at least that you speak to.
Yeah.
Even Joe from Song of Iron, he's composer, who's also a really awesome guy. So there's 2 people. There's 2 people that are on Twitter, and both of them are working on the game. You're telling me that only one person from this indie studio is on Twitter promoting this game and working on this game? Because that isn't in itself is a bit of a mystery to me. Secondly, when I was in mid-discussion of somebody who was convinced that this is going to turn good, then they started deleting all of their tweets regarding the app update, regarding the release of a trailer, etc. Now, that in itself, again, is very weird. Why would a developer delete tweets confirming that they were having issues and then confirming they were fixing issues if you didn't want to hide something in the first place? Why? That is the story of your development is there permanently. The internet does not forget. Screenshots are a wonderful thing. Like, it's just pointless deleting it. It's never going anywhere. Then, amazingly, this article that came out today, who apparently had this conversation with Hassan after he went a little bit quiet following the abysmal release of the trailer that he'd already posted on Twitter, the 4-second release. Apparently, they didn't have anything ready, so it forced them to just release the same trailer back onto the app again, which was just a 4-second clip. So that wasn't even meant to be what was shown. It was meant to be some gameplay, which apparently they're still having technical issues with and have an outsourcing studio helping them fix it, which for some reason they still haven't. Even though, and to Tiku Asante's point, why are they doing things so elaborately for an independent studio? Why are you trying to do things
with no experience to speak
It's not even just experience. It's just like release a trailer. Like, why are you trying to be a AAA developer and do all these weird and wonderful, elaborate things when you haven't released a game in your life? Like, no game has come out and done well, been working, or at all. Like, why would you go through the rigmarole of creating an app to put an interactive experience on if you don't have a working prototype in the first place to even show off. On the opposite side with Xbox, the only time they show indies off at all in any way, shape, or form is a gameplay trailer or some kind of long version of some kind of story trailer for that particular indie game, but nothing else in between. There's nothing else ever shown. The strange thing for me really is why like to OBM's point, where the funding's coming from. The original Kickstarter that failed for his first game surely couldn't have supported him for this long. Because I can't imagine he's refunded anybody for that Kickstarter that failed, because I haven't seen the likes of any kind of news to say that had been refunded for a failed Kickstarter. I don't know how Kickstarter works in that respect either.
I was going to ask you that. Is it like you get
it's,
refunded for that, or is that
you don't get charged until the end of the campaign when it's successful? So
interesting.
If you run it for 30 days, they will take a tally on the 30th day at whatever second that it runs out at. And if you are above your goal, you get paid. If not, they never charge anybody's card. So there's no.
So what happens if he hit his goal then?
If you hit your goal, you got paid.
Yeah. So
and there's no necessary refund attached to that. So there you go. Yeah.
You can, if you hit your goal and you want to refund someone, you can do that. But even if you do a stretch, that's not for the time. That's just saying, if I make this much more money, then I will also do this. Yeah. But you if you're successful and you can't bring the project out, you have the option to refund people, but Kickstarter doesn't mandate that.
Yeah. But to my overall point, really, the studio itself doesn't have a track record of releasing anything. And the things that they have released have either been broken messes or massively negatively reviewed to a point where I just don't understand. Again, much to Mag's point, from working with indies quite substantially. I know even Joe over recent times, even just getting the preview build out for reviewers, he's had to send that off to Xbox. Xbox do a check on it, and they've sent it back to him to do a few more tweaks before it goes out. I know they do internal testing on the indies that they put out before they release them, even if it's just to make sure it's in a good enough working order to be able to send out that review copy. As we know with review copies and with review titles in the first place, there are bugs and issues that will get ironed out up until launch, much like Cyberpunk, which has still had its issues now. But yeah, to me, it's just a very strange kind of collaboration of events that have come to the point where I don't believe for 1 second there is anything that this guy's got to show. Nothing. He hasn't got gameplay. He hasn't got a working game. He hasn't got a prototype. The footage that we've seen is something that has potentially been, I would imagine, he keeps talking about engine, but that's quite clearly the Unreal Engine that he's using there. There is no fancy engine. That's the Unreal Engine that he's using. So it's very strange that, I mean, a trailer itself, and anybody with any kind of coding knowledge, any kind of engine knowledge, even if he's been working on Unreal for a couple of years now, would be able to knock up a small segment of trailer of some guy walking on some steps as some kind of animation over a short period of time. But that does not mean he's going to be capable of creating a large-scale game. Now, his original plans for this game was open world and grandiose, and now he's saying that it's also been reduced to a linear game because he wasn't that. And it's no longer a horror game either. It's an experience, but it's an FPS. So I don't think he quite knows what this game's going to be yet either. So it's no longer a horror. It's an FPS. It's a story game. It's no longer open world. It's linear. So... yeah, and it's apparently releasing next year.
Well, good luck with that, pal. That's all I can say. Good luck with that, pal. Listen, we are closing on an hour, which I figured we would hit on this. And then obviously the second half of the show, folks, is I'm going to do my best to pitch to you why I personally think Xbox has positioned themselves to potentially sweep at this year's Game Awards. and I'm going to break down as to why that is. And I have a lot of strong points, and I think everybody on the panel is going to have equally strong opinions on that. But Everborn Saga, as a person that has dedicated your life to the Everborn Saga, this is something you created. You have been very specific on how you treat this IP, how you sell this brand to us, the gamers and the anime fans and the book fans of the interwebs. When you see this going on, your inner salesperson must be dying.
So what I want to say is you have to respect the long con, right?
Yeah.
let's just right. Like I believe if you look into the books of Blue Box Game Studios, you will see that its patron saint is Danny Ocean, right? So I believe, right? Because you got to wonder, like, if you look at all of that history, why wouldn't they change their name after each? Like, you didn't put anything out. You have no record of this. If it was me, I would say, okay, well, 2015, that thing didn't work out. I'm making a new thing. I'm gonna have a new name for a studio, right? Now, the other thing is, I do not want to give. I think Sony. I think this is egg on Sony's face, but I don't want to sort of. I think I'm with you, OBM. I don't want to besmirch them for this because when you are, I do wonder like why they even let the app get into the store, because they are pretty stringent in who they let in and what they allow in there. So to say we're going to allow you to release an app like this,
we'll say Life of Black Tiger is an anomaly.
Well,
Wow.
Touche, sir. Touche.
digging in the crates. but really, like, you know, I'm not going to get mad at them for allowing Blue Box to shoot their shot. They were riding a wave of hype. Because I could give Microsoft smoke for letting Rare make Everwild and not even know what the damn game is, right? So I don't want to throw smoke at Sony for that. All of my smoke is geared towards Blue Box and their marketing team, and they deserve every bit of it. And I am not in the business of besmirching a small team who's just trying to sort of ride a wave and doing whatever you can to get eyes on your IP. However, they have constantly, back in, what was it, May or June, when they said abandon equals starts with S, ends with L, they tweeted that because they knew there was talk about Kojima and Silent Hill remakes. They invited all of these eyes and they let people run with it. And then after they came out with the crocodile tears and saying, no, we have nothing to do with Kojima or Konami or whatever, you know what they did? They said trailer coming soon, and had a blurry picture of someone with an eye patch that they knew people would assume was Snake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did all of this, and then adding the track record to it only tells you, like, I saw someone in the chat say maybe it's a money laundering scheme, and I'm sorry, like that doesn't feel out of the realm of possibility when you look at this, right? Like you have to have had something, anything to show people. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Sony. I'm not even mad at the fans who hoped it was something, because they didn't pull this out of their ass. That was all Blue Box.
Yeah.
Right? They fomented this. They ran with it. It got them eyeballs. I hope it got them funding. But then the nasty part about it is I don't, when they started deleting tweets about things, like, everything about it is shady as shit. So I think this is just a way to make money, right? Like, so you can announce a game, you can get funding, and then for whatever reason it doesn't work out. And that con seems to have worked over and over again, because you keep seeing it's the same thing. So if I can secure funding and just say, hey, the project fell flat, but I spent all the money already, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's how when you secure funding, that's how it works. They are investing, but if you don't have the money to pay them back, they didn't give you a loan. They invested the money, and so they took a risk, and then the risk doesn't pay off, right? So
the Kickstarter model.
Yes, and that's the thing. They don't have to pay their investors back, right? Or maybe they don't, right? I don't know. I don't know what deals they had, but it seems like a really interesting, inventive way to con some probably companies and maybe angel funders out of some money to show you have a project coming. I respect the con. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, I will say this: anyone that wants to see money thrown their way and never get a return on investment should hang out with those people, because it's not a good look. I understand Sony is not "quote unquote" responsible. But,
I actually feel sorry, Boom. I feel bad for Sony on this, right? Because for them to put that app in the store means they believe there was something there. Yeah, they did not put that app in the store thinking like this is going to be some bullshit, right? So like it is egg on their face, but I like that's crazy. Unless Jaffe is right? Because David Jaffe says this is so crazy that only Kojima could be involved.
He's still perpetuating that. Come on.
The funny, you know what it is? Kojima's not doing it any favors either, because Kojima also put up a post, which you might or might not have seen. He put up a post of a figurine with an eye patch on, standing on top of a blue box, saying, "Just bear with it, guys."
Oh my god!
Jesus
well,
Christ.
that's.
You know what? I would have done the same thing.
He was probably drunk and just his buddy probably told him to do it. Be like, hey, do that thing. It'd be funny.
Let's have some fun. Have some fun. Listen, folks, I'm going to say this. This was a great way to open up the show. Everyone had incredible opinions, as always. It is what you get on this show each and every week. We are going to get into the Xbox topic right now, and I think there's a lot to get into, but I got to catch up on the Super Chats, and it's been, my God, a ton of them. First of all, Spec Gaming is if you don't know who these gentlemen are, I have publicly backed these brothers. They're from Australia. They're going to be bringing us the X screen for the Xbox Series S. If you didn't know, they funded their Kickstarter goal in under an hour, folks. It was incredible. And they've had all of the major publications talk about them. They are going to be sending me one for review when it's ready. I'm looking forward to helping them promote their brand. Again, it's a small company, two brothers from Australia, and I want to thank them for the $8 super chat. It's very kind of you, gentlemen. And of course, we love being here. And of course, Double Barrel Gaming enjoys supporting the little guy, because I think it's super, super important. Thank you for that.
You know what it is? It's amazing watching you, Spec, as well, because the amount of people on their posts that have said, I wasn't even considering getting a Series S until I seen this, and now I'm getting a Series S.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
I'm there.
Yeah,
I did that.
We have Lucis Augustus drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if PlayStation guys didn't think Flight Sim was a game, I don't even want to know what they think Abandon is. Sony got scammed. Just take the L. Well, I guess they're going to have to take something. Flame drops an additional $5 super chat and says, just a note provided by YouTuber Nightmind, who investigated this. Create Q does not make games or is involved in the industry. Well, that's pretty interesting, considering they were supposedly took up the game. But okay, I mean, again, we have I'm gonna see if I'm Cade Forever. Oh, that's a great name, dude. Of course, you must be a diehard Bungie fan with that, because that's pretty dope. He drops a $10 super chat and says, everyone wondering what Compulsion and Roundhouse is developing. Oh, Compulsion's game is going to surprise a lot of people. As a matter of fact, Phil Spencer himself said that it's one of the most, for him, most anticipated games that they have not announced. It's BioShock meets Uncharted. It's a third-person story-driven game.
I thought Phil didn't want to make those.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny you should talk about that Phil controversy, because tune in tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will break down the controversy from the Games Radar interview, which, by the way, was fantastic, and some of the websites that I actually go to for news, like WCCF Tech. Man, they disappointed because they put a lot of fluff into a. It was so bad for them, they had to pull the article, rewrite it, and then retitle it. But you'll learn more about that tomorrow on the Xbox Factor podcast. And Cade Forever says, ever wondering? Oh, so he said, everyone wondering what Compulsion and Ran House is developing. What about ZeniMax Online's new studio and in San Diego, being led by AAA veterans of Naughty Dog, EA, Blizzard? No one seems to notice or care. Now, I just think there's not enough for us to go on. I think the minute we have some good information, we will definitely be addressing it on this channel. I'm sure Xbox Era and everybody here will be talking about that at some point. We have our good friend, Enrique, the subtle voice of the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. He drops a $5 super chat and says, shout out to the panel and my buddy OBM, who I met 20 years ago on Xbox Live.
That's very
Everyone,
dope.
All hail Hades. Indeed.
I'm surprised he didn't point out him being a beta tester back then, but
that would have cost him a little more money.
I love it. Yeah, we love Enrique and this channel. We love what they do over there at the Basement Arcade Radio podcast. Sir X-Man drops a outstanding $10 super chat and says, this is going to cost, but had to tell this weekend we're playing Forza Horizon 3. My friends on Xbox One, Fat, other friend on Xbox Series S, and other friend on Xbox One X. I'm on PC. Triple screen worked flawlessly. Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Exactly. OBM, like that is the point, and I think that is that vision of what the future of gaming can be. And we get so caught up in a box that only serves the billion and trillion dollar companies. Like that the content should come to you. How it comes to you should not matter to you, because you are a gamer and you came to play games, not a specific console. So that is amazing, and that is what I think all of us need to ascend to understand that is a good thing. But anyway,
that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome. You can play Halo that way, with all the way back to the OG fat Xbox, including all the way up to the Series, all together in the same. Absolutely awesome to be able to still.
Yeah, but I don't want anybody from the PC in my game.
Well, I want to say this. It's funny because those are that's one of the conversations that you don't hear many people talking about. And it's one of the conversations that was brought into the context of that said conversation during the Games Radar interview on how important generations are to Phil Spencer specifically, and why he wants gamers of all consoles to be able to play and have the same amount of enjoyment. But again, tune in tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to break that down. It's going to be one of the biggest topics of the show. Dan Lazaro.
This is a great one. This Dan Lazaro comment.
Yeah, he says PlayStation players downloading the app. Meanwhile, in the background, it's stealing their personal information and personal and banking information.
The long con. I'm telling you, Dan Lazaro, you saw it.
You saw it coming, brother. Well,
you're a fellow hustler.
Real quick, I gotta thank our brother and very generous friend of the show, Gary Duddle. Wow, a 50-pound super chat. He says, I think we're getting the mini fridge announcement at Gamescom next week, and that would be dope because I am pre-ordering. But listen, folks, you're here for the Xbox talk, and that is what we're going to get into. Now, look, I'm going to say this. I know that there are a lot of people that follow me that feels a type of way about Geoff Keighley. Like I get it. He said some things that have been a little nefarious about Xbox, a little offhand comments. Everyone still is bent out of shape about the releasing of the Xbox pricing when he did. But I've always said this about Geoff. He is super, super important to the industry because of his personal passion and what he has been able to do with his company. Now, you may disagree and think otherwise, and that's awesome. I mean, we're not always going to agree, but I've always said it. I have been publicly. I've disagreed with some of his tactics. We've actually had conversations on Twitter. Of course, I handled it that how you would expect Boomstick to handle such things, with class and tact. But I made my point. And even though I don't agree with some of the way he has done things, I still think that the Game Awards has become the standard for award shows. I think that last year's Game Awards was brilliant. I thought the pacing and everything and the production values were fantastic. And folks, I know that everyone's still got the shorts on and are hanging out in the pool with the kebabs, but the fall is upon us. And as we get closer to the fall, we start to talk about Game of the Year. Now, normally, Sony is at the crux at the top of this conversation. That is not going to be the case in 2021. Now, listen, you can say what you want about how your feelings are for Ratchet and Clank, folks. I'm here to tell you, if everything goes according to Hoyle, and if you're a card player, you know what I'm talking about. Then it's going to be green for Microsoft, and it's going to be pushing up all green, because I think that they have a shot, folks, to sweep this year. Now, whether or not that happens, well, this is where we get into whether or not, I know people have accused Geoff of, really being in there, but we know that the picks come from a panel of game industry people. But here, so before I get into where I think they're going to win, these are the categories that were the most relevant to the conversation. I'm not going to talk about streamers and personalities, and we're just talking about gaming. These are the hashtag the Game Awards categories. Game of the Year, obviously, most anticipated title for 2022, best narrative, best multiplayer, best performance, best art direction, best ongoing game, best audio design, best action adventure, best role playing, best indie, best action, best family game, best game for impact, best game for innovation in access, and best community support. And if you remember, a lot of those categories saw The Last of Us 2 snatch up. Well, that's not going to be the case, because obviously the one big one that could have snatched up a lot of those awards would have been Horizon Forbidden West, and we know that is being delayed until first quarter 2022. But this is where I feel Microsoft could sweep. Game of the Year, folks. I know you're going to say, "Boom, you're insane for suggesting such a thing," but because it's going to be such a big deal on both multiplayer and the single player campaign, which I believe is going to be a knockout from start to finish, Halo Infinite, folks. Right? Now, Platform of the Year. Folks, I'm telling you right now, Psychonauts 2 is going to not edge out Ratchet and Clank. It's going to straight up beat it. The buzz that this game is getting is serious. Racing sports game, well, obviously Forza Horizon 5, that's going to win it. Simulator/strategy game of the year, Flight Sim 2021.
Hey, boom.
Yes, sir.
Abandoned is a survival simulator. Don't count it out.
I won't count it out, but I won't count it ever releasing because of the history. But that's
Flight Sim won an award last year. Does that not preclude it from winning this year too?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. But you know what? Last year it was on the PC. This year it happens to be on the Xbox. But best indie for best indie. Well, this year I got to tell you, folks, I think Microsoft has this in spades. You're talking about Death's Door. You're talking about potentially Song of Iron is going to be in that conversation. Depending on where you fall, The Ascent, at least it's my personal game of the year so far. 12 Minutes releases this Thursday. That's getting tremendous buzz. And also, we can't forget about, obviously, games like Tunic, which are getting huge buzz. And that was one guy. So, I mean, obviously, add your favorite But I want to go to OBM first on this. OBM, in years past, we have seen very early in said year, particular company with over the shoulder triple A big budget be already locked in for the game of the year. That's not the case in 2021. As a matter of fact, it looks like Microsoft does in fact have a stacked deck, and they could potentially win a lot of these awards. And I think that it's not a stretch to say that, again, I'm not saying that Ratchet and Clank isn't great. It's going to be in my personal top 10. But when you talk about platformers, the last time we saw a new Psychonauts was in 2005 on the OG Xbox. And what it looked like then and what it looks like now, it looks like straight up something out of Pixar. Not taking anything away from Ratchet and Clank, but a lot of people that I have talked to said, well, it's just Ratchet and Clank. It's not really much different. Where do you fall with potentially Microsoft really racking up the wins this fall?
Whew. All right, so there's a lot of different things to consider. First, I will admit I have not played Ratchet. I still don't have a PS5, so I can't offer any kind of opinion on that comparatively. I will say, as somebody who played Grim Fandango back on the PC when it was, back point and click adventures a long time ago. Gosh, that was over 20 years ago. I'm really excited about Psychonauts 2. I'm really hoping this is the chance for Tim Schafer to win something. I do think that really his strength, more than anything, is his team strength is in narrative and in just their character development and storytelling. So there's definitely going to be some opportunities there because, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of the big narrative driven games. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for a lot of the indie sector to kind of step in on some of these types of things, like 12 Minutes, Psychonauts, Death's Door. I think there's a lot of opportunity for those games, and this could be a good big moment for the independent developer. When it comes to Microsoft, though, I do, so I had this discussion a few times. I was actually on, Brad months ago when we were on with Shinobi, and we were talking about, Halo, and there's like, hey, is this something that could, win Game of the Year? And at the time I said, there's no way. Like, this is just not the kind of game, that the media really would consider for that. They usually, are looking for something that's a little bit different, a little bit more innovative, just something that they feel, especially on Keighley's show. And I don't really necessarily think it's a platform bias. I just think they target things that are more narrative driven, that kind of, I think, help expand the industry towards more mainstream acceptance. That seems to be how they prioritize a lot of the games they nominate. However, one of the things that when I was writing this article for Xbox Era regarding the Game Pass and how it compares to Netflix in that trajectory. I wrote off like the importance of it. I said it doesn't really matter, and I think when I said that, I'm speaking more for myself because it doesn't. I just download stuff, try it. If I I don't care what what the metas on it or the game awards are on that stuff. But considering it, like stepping back and trying to be more objective about the situation, and whether or not they should, they should be trying to aspire to hit some of these types of things. When I was comparing Game Pass to like the history of Netflix, one of the things that really was highlighted was, the fact that Satya Nadella, actually his mentor for a year before he took over Microsoft, was Reed Hastings, one of the co-founders for Netflix. And so when he says like, hey, we want to be the Netflix of games, he absolutely means it. And I think they also, even though it is a little bit different, he does follow some of the strategies, and you've seen him bring in some of the marketing guys. And even right now, like their investment in some of these bigger things that are probably going to take, some time to come out. They haven't, when you look at the history of like what happened with Netflix, it took them well over a decade just to get to like, it took them like a decade and a half to get to like 30 million. They went to 70 million like in 3 years later, after they started getting recognized for not Game of the Year, but like their shows are getting recognized for awards. So there is really something to be said of getting that kind of mainstream pop to it. So I guess I say all that to kind of say that, hey, this maybe is something that is a more relevant topic than maybe I want it to be, because I don't really care as much about who wins this stuff, because like I said, it doesn't really it doesn't really impact how I interact with different games. But I do think that there is something to be said about having those types of things that do get that recognition, that are launching day one in there, and for them to be able to come out and say that, like, yeah, day one, you're getting game of the year type of games. Now, when I look at what they have this year, obviously, there's about a 24-month period where AAA has been spread pretty thin, right? Like last year, we felt it a little bit with Microsoft. This year, we're feeling at the end of this year with Sony. It's just, I think a lot of that's just kind of timing, and these games have been stretched out and they take a long time to develop anyways. There is an opportunity, I think, to become maybe to the stage is there, right? So like, obviously I haven't played more than the demo of Halo, but the stage is definitely there for it to come out and say, to Shinobi's point, like, well, if that is your tentpole, why isn't it at least trying to compete for that? Now, I kept pushing back, and I even was on Xbox Air a few weeks ago, and we brought that up, and I'm like, no, it's not getting it's not even going to get nominated. However, I did, thinking about when I was writing the article for Halo Infinite and the beta. And one of the things that was really starting to come to mind to me when I was equating what I was experiencing in the multiplayer to how it might translate to the campaign, the thing that kind of jumped to my mind was like Mario Odyssey. And the reason I say that is like Mario Odyssey was a Mario-esque Mario, but it did something different with the gameplay that made it feel fresh and still made it feel new while still fitting the characteristics of that game. And I know I don't remember where it fell in Keighley's awards, but I think it won for a lot of people. It was their game of the year. It was like the thing they talked about at the end of the year. And we have to remember there's a lot more than just Keighley's awards. There's a lot of awards out there. And so when I think about that, I do think that if Halo's ever going to contend for something again, this is probably its best chance to ever be in that conversation again. And I do think, based on what I played in the beta, that the sandbox is there. They've tweaked things to make them very interesting. And for anybody that got a chance to grab that grapple hook and experience it, I'm watching the Titanfall demo right now, or your gameplay there. It feels very different than any sort of grapple hook I've ever used, because it's physics based. It almost, like, in thinking about it in the campaign where you can put it in there with less limited uses and be innovative in terms of your level design, there really is a sandbox opportunity. Like if the level designers are good and the storytelling is better this time than it was in Halo 5, there really is an opportunity for the campaign, I think, to capture a lot of attention. And I don't know if it's going to win. The people that submit their votes, from the media, for Keighley's, if that's the kind of game they're looking for. I do think if they hit it out of the park in terms of the game design, the sandbox is good enough. And I think there's enough differences that Halo could actually be in the conversation for a lot of people's game of the year, because I do think it has that, like I said, Mario Odyssey type of potential. So I am kind of curious, like, and especially like Everborn, I know he's like a fellow Halo brother in here, kind of what you guys think about that. And, is this maybe, is this really, Halo's best chance to take it? Besides Halo, I do think it's going to be an indie shield. I do think indies have a lot of chance to steal the spotlight this year as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, great point.
Don't take the whole thing.
Well, I mean, listen, let's Everborn, let's get you in on the conversation, because look, I think OBM actually says something really interesting to his incredible point, is that it seems like the perfect storm, not just for Microsoft first-party games, but specifically for Halo. Not saying that it wouldn't beat out a God of War. I'm not saying that it would or it wouldn't. What I'm saying is that when looking at what they are doing, the playing field is thin. And I think that because we have had a chance, I know I got a chance to play a ridiculous amount, and I'm back. I mean, I got the Halo 3 feels all over again with that beta, which I cannot wait for them to do a second one, because I'm going to jump right into that head first. But we have, I mean, at least look, I know that my glass is half full, and I know others is half empty. I get it. But for Halo specifically, I want to see 343 win in a big way. And my God, what a way to kind of check off every box that they had all of these problems and it was development hell and they had to delay a game a whole year when it was supposed to be a launch title for the Series X and S. They had all this marketing that had to eat. You know, it was on potato chip bags and Slurpees and everything, right? So they had to eat all of that, and they still said, "Listen, the game is not the game." And if it turns out to be this incredible single player campaign that we have all been asking for years, and we get the multiplayer that has just been, I mean, again, this is a 2-month-old build. It was a beta, so you got to take it for what it's worth. But if we get the ultimate package, this would be really fantastic for exactly what OBM said on your Game Pass advertisement, Game of the Year, award after. If they could turn around and line up every title that wins at this year's Game Awards and throw that in the advertising for said Game Pass, it's going to get people to look in the direction of Xbox that may or may not ever looked in that direction before. Where do you fit with this?
So there's a few things. First, I think what you're talking about, it's a very real possibility. I don't think that I don't even think you're being generous, right? I think what you're talking about is very plausible. Now, before I go on to my my dichotomy here, I do want to say my Xbox brothers, I love you all. If what Boom is talking about comes true, please be better than the sore winner PlayStation fans, because I don't want to see a bunch of Xbox people pretending to care about Game of the Year again when we spent all this time saying it's the game that matters and those things. So please, guys, because I think Boom is onto something. I think we could see a clean sweep because of a numerous set of circumstances. But please don't go on to PlayStation guys and say, look at this Game of the Year, whatever. Now,
be better. Is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Now, come on, Everborn. You know when that happens, the first thing they'll say is it's because there was nobody else to compete with them. That's
and
why.
The second thing I will say is shut.
Fine, just show humility and just
up, right?
be happy. You know what I mean? Show humility as a winner.
Yeah, that's it, man. Walk softly, carry a big Game of the Year.
You see Tom Brady ever showboating like a buffoon?
Right?
Tom Brady throws a touchdown, walks off the field.
That's it.
You know
That's
what I'm
all
saying?
you got to do. Okay, so now I feel like in the indie space, I don't know if It Takes Two counts because that was published by EA, but I think It Takes Two is the only thing right now standing against Death's Door and Game of the Year, right? Because but I don't know how that counts. Now, It Takes Two will also give Ratchet and Clank a run for its money. But and just going by what we've seen, going by Jez Corden's glowing words, judging by the first game, judging by Tim Schafer, all of those things, you guys remember this, I put out a poll and everyone asked if I was crazy. Who has a better shot at winning Game of the Year? Ratchet and Clank or Psychonauts 2? And everybody asked me if I was on drugs, if I was crazy, how, you know what I mean? And it seems like people are coming around now, and I have that post bookmarked because I will bring it back because I said this. Now, I think they can win indie game. I think that, like I said, for me right now, Resident Evil was taken out of my top spot for Game of the Year because of Death's Door. Now, the Halo thing is very interesting. OBM, you're a numbers guy, and you took a step back. Looking at the current situation with Horizon Forbidden West off the board, I don't think when's the last time Call of Duty won a Game of the Year?
I was actually wondering the same thing.
They're not even going to get it. They're not getting any votes for anything this year.
But this is what I'm saying, right? It is a perfect storm. If it was ever going to win, now would be it. Next year, no chance. Last year, no chance because it had to go up against The Last of Us 2. This is the year that it is the most plausible. So
can I throw a wrinkle in your works? Just a small wrinkle.
When it comes out.
Since technically Iki Island will be in part of a new SKU, the director's cut. Could
Don't
that
count?
No, they won't.
Does not count.
There's no way.
Does not
I'm just
count.
throwing it out there.
Nope.
No.
I'm
You know what?
Stop it, Asante.
It makes sense.
Hey
to what
man,
you're saying, but
I think it's ridiculous, but I'm putting it out there.
If that happens, and I'm not talking about if it beats Halo, I'm saying if it is included, the fight is fixed. Completely forget about this whole thing.
Agreed.
That's it.
Agreed.
That's
Don't
what will
even
convince you.
watch.
That
If
would
you see the
solidify.
nominations come out and you see Iki Island on there, just
Or
close your
Death
laptop
Stranding
screen.
director's cut.
Yeah.
Close your laptop screen. It's over. Forget it. It is a sham. It is the Golden Globes of awards right now.
I've always thought it was either the Oscars or the Golden Globes anyway, so I hear you.
Well, the Oscars is very different from the Golden Globes. Now, I do
Sure.
want to say another thing because there's some talk in the chat about what gets nominated and what doesn't. I made a post about this a couple of months ago as well. I do find it interesting the sort of the parallels between the Oscars sort of favoring unique, many times indie, smaller films for their top awards, meaning Best Picture, over the bigger budget tentpole technical showcases like the MCU
Halo
films,
might
things
be
like
too
that.
endgame for them.
Right? No. But this is the thing. The Game Awards is actually the opposite. When was the last time an indie unique game actually won for game of the entire year?
It was on Switch. I forget
Last
the name
year.
of it.
Yeah.
It was on Switch. Come on. Besides what's his face?
No, I'm not talking about the specific categories. I mean the big one. The overall game of the year.
What's the name of the game? Come on. It was on Switch.
Hades won, didn't it?
Hades.
Oh, no,
No,
sorry. Hades won
no.
Indie Game of the Year.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about the other game, Celeste.
That didn't win Game of the Year.
It did.
It was
did not?
nominated. It did. It was nominated. It didn't win.
I thought it won.
I'm almost positive it
Somebody
was
look that up.
Hades that won. last.
Someone, please fact check
Let's
me.
look
No,
that up. Yes. Okay.
Didn't Last of Us 2 win last year?
Last of Us 2 won last year.
Yeah. Hades was nominated. It didn't
Yeah,
win.
Hades won Indie Game of the Year.
Okay.
Last of Us 2
So-
swept basically everything else.
Yeah, it was The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. Like they get nominated, they'll win in the other categories, but the big boy, which is like you'll compare that to Best Picture, right? At the Oscars, you'll have other nominations, but the big one of the night is Best Picture. Game of the Year is overall Game of the Year. And the Game Awards tend to favor those bigger, more commercial hit games. They nominate the obligatory indie game, but those never win. Go back and look up for the last 5-6 years of the Game Awards and see what the winners were. So, but that's just the thing. And like I said, anybody in the chat or on the panel, please fact check me. I would like to know if I'm wrong, but I think I am right.
The only one ever born is Overwatch.
But that's not
Overwatch
an
won
indie
Game
game.
of the Year one of the years.
Yeah, but that's not an indie
But
game.
Blizzard's not an indie game.
No, sorry. I was making reference to the fact that like they always go for those like the bigger budget story driven sort of.
I'm not saying
okay,
story
yeah.
driven. I'm
Kind of
just
thing.
saying the more commercialized.
I
the
see.
more
Okay.
commercial
Sorry.
hits.
Okay.
Hades was nominated for Game of the Year last year, along
Yeah.
with Animal Crossing, Last of Us Part 2, which won, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII, and Doom Eternal.
Yeah, I think there's always one every year where they'll give an obligatory indie nomination, but they never give the big prize to that one. So anyway, that's that. I just everyone think about that, and see why that is. Why do the Oscars sort of ignore?
Good point. Yeah,
the
even in
technical-
2018, Celeste was nominated, but God of War won. You're
I
absolutely
mean,
correct.
God of
yes.
War should have won.
Of course, 100%, hands
But-
down. I'm not even arguing that point. Continue.
Right.
Yes.
But again, Oscars tend to favor smaller budget indie projects to win Best Picture, and the Game Awards tend to favor the bigger budget, more commercial projects. So that's an interesting thing between the two industries. Now, best action adventure, I think Psychonauts, from what I am seeing, has a very strong shot. But if not Psychonauts, I think it's It Takes Two. Game of the year. I don't. What else right now would even go against Halo? What are we thinking?
Hitman 3, which was like a big hit.
Yeah,
at the beginning of the year.
it'd be Hitman, Halo, Ratchet. If Halo's good, yeah, I think Ratchet's going to get in there.
I mean, unfortunately, I think we've also, and this is really strange saying this because again, it wasn't critically. I mean, it was critically okay received and it got good scores, but Returnal is still in there.
Yeah, I could see. I hate that game, but I could totally understand why it would be there. Like, I hate that game with a passion. I've probably dedicated 10 hours of my life to that, all wasted. I don't want that time back, and I refuse to play it until they add a save feature. But that's a conversation for another day. But my main point, 3 points. Boom, you are onto something. Xbox could sweep. Second point, if they do, please, Xbox people, do not be dicks about it. To the same way the PlayStation guys were, and 3, why do the Game Awards tend to favor these more commercial projects as opposed to the more, I would say, more innovative indie projects? It's not all about budgets and explosions. It should be about innovation and experience.
Yeah, I mean, a great point as always. Wandering Dutch, let's bring you in on the conversation with this. Listen, am I onto something, or is this some sort of fabrication of the truth? I mean, I think that when you look at what's coming for the remainder of the year, Microsoft has politely and quietly built themselves a chance to win big, especially in some of the bigger awards. And something like I said, it's one of those things that they have not had happen in a very long time. They have not been a part of the conversation. This is a year that they're going to be a major aspect of that conversation. And what's even more exciting is that with what they're selling in Game Pass, this would be fantastic to throw on your cover page of Game of Award nominee or Game of the Award winner X, Y, and Z. I think that this, like I said, I don't think I'm going too far from the truth. Where do you fall with this?
Yeah, I don't think you're too far away from the truth. I also agree with OBM and Everborn when it comes to the fact that it is most definitely a perfect storm. Due to the kind of current situations, due to the kind of the way things have panned out for Sony this year, and the way things are now to the tail end, when it starts to get into the thick of it, the kind of more important section of the year, which is coming into kind of fall, winter, which is right up to Christmas, leading up with a lot of big releases. That's where it really starts to come into its own for Xbox. And specifically this year, it's been an absolute minefield of amazing indie titles that have released on Xbox. And specifically, most recently, as we know, we've had Death's Door, we've had The Ascent, you've got 12 Minutes coming up. Again, like you mentioned earlier, Song of Iron, of course, could potentially be in with a shout. But there's numerous indies that are coming up and have already been released for Xbox over this last 12 months that have been really big contenders for Game of the Year on their own right, which is brilliant. So I think in terms of some of the other aspects, like last year, Hades won Best Action Game, and that beat out the likes of Doom Eternal, which is insane. It beat out Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, which was really well received, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4. So a really big group of games there. And Hades won that again, another indie. So the indies could end up taking a lot of those kind of different sections away, and specifically in terms of music. Now, if you have to think back to some of the music we've heard in these indies as well, the likes of, as we've mentioned, 12 Minutes is going to have probably a really good score to go along with that narrative-based kind of game. Of course, you've got a 12-minute decision that you've got to make and how it resets its clock every 2 minutes. Then, of course, The Ascent, the awesome music in The Ascent as well, the score that's come with that. So even just outside of best game, you're looking at, of course, best art direction. You're looking at best score musically. You're looking at the best talent in terms of actresses and actors. There's so many different kind of areas as well that they've probably inadvertently pinned down by having some of these games come on there. Now, the Ascent's art direction is just insane, and we've recently
It's incredible. Yeah.
that modified PC version where they've went into first person, and you can just see how much detail they've put into a world that is predominantly looked from top down. You know, it's so incredible to see. And I mean, across the board, unfortunately, I think Flight Sim will be ruled out because it did win the best sim strategy last year. So I don't think Flight Sim's in for the running this year.
Could Forza Horizon win that? Because it's kind of like a simulation driving game.
Yes,
I think maybe more a motorsport, not a Horizon.
Oh, one other thing about Halo, it being nominated may all depend on when Microsoft releases it, because there is a cutoff in November. And if they release it after, I think, early November, that's kind of it. And maybe Microsoft doesn't want to be in that conversation, so maybe they release it after that, just so they don't even have to worry about it.
One thing people probably will forget as well is best sim strategy, Age of Empires 4. That also releases this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that would probably be in for a run in there, because I can't think of too many sim/strategy games that have released this year. I mean, Lawnmower Simulator is not going to be there, is it? Let's face it. So I can't really see any other sim/strategy games that have really hit the high points. I think Age of Empires 4 it's been a while since there was an Age of Empires game released. A very long time, and I think the work they have done as well, specifically to improve Age of Empires over this last few years and bring out this title, is probably going to get highly recognized. So I think that's in for a run-in. Psychonauts, I completely agree. That game could very much be the dark horse and potentially beat out Ratchet. Although Ratchet was critically acclaimed, it didn't do anything too dissimilar from what was already in Ratchet. And I think a lot of review sites noticed that, outside of the glitz and glamour of the fancy graphics and let's say the way it's handled, it's the technical aspects of the game. It was very much same from what you expect from a Ratchet and Clank. It wasn't too dissimilar. The gameplay wasn't dissimilar at all. It was very much same. So I don't know whether or not that will get as recognized as probably people might assume it will. I think Psychonauts being a little bit different, being a little bit wacky, standing out with its art style, and potentially its writing and storytelling, etc., could very much put it in for a shout for Game of the Year there. Forza Horizon 5 has hands down got that one in the bag. That hasn't even been released, and that game is winning over so many people already.
Yep.
It's insane. I don't think they've got an issue there. I think that's pretty much all in the bag. That'll go down for best sports/racing game. Best multiplayer game, again, Halo could be in with a shout there. It's just, it's again best family game. Psychonauts will probably be in for a shout there as well.
Yep. Well, I mean, remember that whole controversy of them putting the game on basically a God mode, right? Like allowing for everyone to play that game. That game could potentially appeal to a wide range of 50-year-olds like myself, all the way down to 5-year-olds who want to play, a family game, a platformer that looks like a Pixar movie.
Yep.
Yeah, let's not sleep on It Takes Two, though. I think Takes Two is going to be the dark horse.
100%. 100%. And then you've got innovation and accessibility. I think that could go anywhere. There's been so many games that have been created over this last year from all genres that have really stepped up their accessibility game. So that could pretty much be anything and anywhere. Best VR, AR. To be honest, over this last year, I don't think there's been much in terms of VR and kind of improvements. In terms of games, I don't think there's been much released that's really stood out. Of course, we had Half-Life Alyx that was released, and that really was kind of pushing the boat on where where VR should be and where people hope it's going to be, but nothing really else has pushed it since. So there's not much there I can potentially comment on. Let's have best mobile game now. That's a weird one. xCloud. We're talking about best mobile game, and then you've got xCloud in the conversation. Now that's a really strange one to get into. Do they count things that are available on console / xCloud? Do they just discard
that may
it?
need to change the narrative a little bit, because that blows it out of a little bit. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
gonna
think
be
it
a
would
weird
just be
count.
more accessibility to the console, so they would still consider it a console.
Yeah.
Not like a console
Yeah.
game. You're just using the phone or tablet or whatever as a
No,
vehicle.
I mean, Game
to
Pass
access
through
the console, right?
Game Pass through the phone is that muddies the
Probably
waters.
talking
It's a
local-
weird gray area.
It is a bit of a gray area, but I think they'll rule it out.
Yeah, I
they
think they're
might,
going to
yeah.
just stick with the local, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll keep it, standard fare. But I mean, you bring up a lot of great points, Dutch, for sure.
Yeah, it's really you are right though. And I think back to summarize exactly the way Everboard and OBM said, it's just the perfect storm. Really, anything can happen, and there's probably not a better time for Xbox / Microsoft to take quite a lot of the plaudits this time around.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, that's just because of the way things have panned out for Sony again. We fully expect when those games release, the Horizon Zero Dawns and the God of Wars, etc., that they will be mega hits. They always are. They're always critically acclaimed. Unless something goes drastically wrong with those games before launch, we all full well expect those games to be critically acclaimed and do extremely well. And rightly so. Horizon, again, some people it's a hit or miss. I think the reason Horizon was always a hit or miss for people is because they were burnt out on the Ubisofty open world kind of tower. Okay, you're going to unlock this tower. Here's a story to follow along the way, but it's big, it's open. It depends how burnt out somebody is when they start playing something like that on these open world games. Same applied for Days Gone. You know what I mean? They're going to have these games that don't quite hit the mark, but I think Horizon and God of War, etc., when they come out, are going to be just fine. But perfect storm, like you said, Boom. I think it's completely in Microsoft's hands here to win quite a few, thanks to the varied amount of different types of games they've got covering this time.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah,
Well,
I think a lot of this is going to depend on, and I fully believe that they will, but the thing about some of these things that we're talking about, a lot of them are sort of single player experiences, right? So they're not really going to have that sort of, you get one shot with those, is what I'm saying. With a multiplayer game, you can release it and then fix bugs afterwards. But with some of these Psychonauts and the Halo campaign and things like that, they're going to have to release and be fully tested, and they can't be bug ridden. You know what I'm saying? We can't deal with those week 2 patches that fix everything.
What happened to Ori that ruined its chances, because they got shafted because of that.
Yeah.
So it's not about let's get data from the launch and then fix it afterwards. If they're going to stand a chance with all of these games, which they do, the QA, they need to triple the budget on that for these for the day one launch.
Well, I will say this again. It's a perfect storm. I think Microsoft is really positioned themselves now. Whether or not that's by accident or on purpose, because of the pandy, we'll never know. But they have positioned themselves quietly to potentially snatch up a lot of these awards. And what's interesting during the conversation, and I'll bring in Kay Asante in on this, is that they're from so many different genres, right? You're talking big budget AAA first person multiplayer Halo, OG, and you're talking about Psychonauts, platformer, and you're talking about Death's Door, indie exclusive, and you're potentially going to talk about, The Ascent winning an award for, best, production value, and I mean it goes on, and obviously we're already seeing what Forza Horizon 5 looks like because they keep giving us one every week. We get a new video. The game just keep looking better and better. They could rack up a lot of these awards, and again, I think everyone's right. It is a perfect storm. Where do you fall with this?
I mean, personally, I completely agree with everybody's points. It is an asterisk year, which always kind of, it's one of those things. It is what it is. You just kind of have to move forward. But they never just get pitted on a normal year, right? It has to be an asterisk year, But you're absolutely right. The tea leaves, everything is seeming to be gearing towards that, and obviously, you guys have pointed out all the various categories and where they can excel. I'll just add a few more to the fire here. I'm rather looking forward to the Artful Escape because that's coming in September, and that is definitely a David Bowie simulator. So that's good to win something, It's totally like amazing.
Case, I want to stop you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just real quick for anybody that hasn't checked out that game. Nick from Xbox Era put together it took him a long time to put together a really good preview of it, so people should check it out. It is definitely an interesting.
I've been keeping an eye on that thing for a while. It looks really, really funky and weird.
Yeah, they showed it like 3 years ago, right? Like so, yeah.
I do remember. Yep, with the same year as The Last Night, which also went into the ether and hasn't come back yet. But this one looks like it's almost at the finish line, and I'm there for it. And it looks really weird and interesting, so it's still on my radar. And now they just showed a recent clip of it, so we definitely know it's close to coming out. I think it's September somewhere it's coming out. And as Dutch said, they'll be looking for awards in the music category. That screams music to me, and it looks really interesting and creative and funky. The Ascent, as also has been noted, if you guys haven't checked out that Unreal Unlock tool that they used, you can literally read the newspaper on the desk, people. Imagine making an asymmetric game that is from that far distant, but you zoom in, use the camera, and you can read the newspaper articles. What the heck? They spent too much time doing this stuff. I think they deserve some awards for it.
Game.
I think they deserve some awards for it. Like, it is insanely detailed. It's almost like they were making a first-person shooter and then changed their minds later. Why be so detailed if you're never going to get that close?
I was going to say to that note as well, if you have ever watched the proper dev diaries for Song of Iron before that was released, well, at least before he put it up, he also showed how his game came into fruition. So it isn't a 2D game. In fact, it's an entirely 3D world. Like all of it is 3D, but he's made it into a perspective where it's 2D.
Shifted the perspective to make it look like it's a 2D world. Yeah.
Whilst keeping it 3D so that all of the enemies, etc., come in from the background or from the foreground and move into your realm. So if it was, because he could move it into a 3D space and it would still work, but he wants that particular perspective. So I think they've done exactly the same thing. They've designed it to a point where it could be really any perspective. They just want it from
when you were watching that video, they actually said exactly that. Even though you can see it and go around in 3D space, the way the world is set up, it was still basically set up in almost kind of a 2D parallax way, even though the 3D tool gives you the capabilities of walking 3D. They just chose that way to express it. But good point. Thank you. As you pointed out, Song of Iron, I have high hopes for that game. Yeah. It's very interesting looking, very much as we've seen more and more of it. It's very, very interesting and very enticing. It's one of those games that can sweep, one of those games that can come out of nowhere and really surprise.
And the music on that game is really good. Like,
there you go.
Exactly. What they've managed to do as well with that, just one man creating the entire musical soundtrack is insane.
Now, I will also say, seeing what we've seen with Death's Door, it's a lot like Tunic. I've played 2 different Tunic demos in the last 6 months, and there've been 2 different ones. And Tunic and Death's Door speak a lot of the same languages. What do you think of it, Born? Do you disagree?
No. I totally agree. When I first started playing it, I said it's kind of sucking some of the air out of Tunic.
Tunic was going to be this, and now Death's Door kind of took it over.
Death's Door feels like if Tunic was tuned to perfection. That's kind of what you get. Like, and so I'm so excited for Tunic, because I hope the developer, one guy, looks at
and
that.
it's just as difficult, and it speaks the same kind of language. It's just, man, I feel bad for Tunic because I've been waiting for that game for so long, and Death's Door is righteously amazing, so it deserves all the accolades it can get. But now Tunic is going to be like, oh, it's just a Death's Door clone. I'm just like,
no, nobody's going to say that.
I hope not.
I just want Tunic to look at the way Death's Door was tuned.
And hopefully continue down that path.
Yes, yeah. I think the tuning on Tunic, funny enough, it was a little off in the last one we played. The difficulty, there was a weird difficulty spike, and what they did with the dashes, putting a meter on it, I don't think it worked for what they were asking you to do. But anyway, I don't want to derail you, but you made an interesting point. You made an interesting point in the beginning. I'm waiting for people to try to invalidate all these wins that we may see, because none of it is going to count, and they're still going to Game Pass filler, they said.
Yes,
Sable, Sable, another exclusive, Sable.
Yes,
which everyone has talked about. It's so peaceful and so tranquil. If you play the demo, it's wonderful. You know, there's a lot of these potential interesting things coming, and they're all still there. And this is like, there's still like 20 some odd games still technically slated for 2021.
Actually,
like the Gunk, please.
Yes,
I will still end on my square. I'm expecting to see that in 2021. I have seen no one tell me it's not coming. There's been no more updates about it, which I'm like unhappy about. But no one has pushed it yet. So come on, I'm waiting for that game. I love that studio. But all of their work has been brilliant so far. So I expect nothing but brilliance continued. OBM, don't dash my dreams. I see your face. Don't do it. Don't do it, man.
I feel like anything that you didn't see with the release date at E3,
I know, man. I know. But I'm holding out hope because they didn't officially delay it. So I'm still holding out hope. You know, it's still on their website, still saying 2021.
They didn't give us a date for Halo, and we believe that's coming out this year.
Exactly.
So I want to believe.
Reiterated, it's a win.
Exactly. And then one last dark horse mention, because Wandering Dutch said so. The AR VR. Whenever Lone Echo 2 shows up, it will be Game of the Year AR VR. Hopefully it hits that little thing, but it will be, in my opinion, probably better than Half-Life Alyx, and y'all can fight me on it, because it's that good. The first one is that good.
You know what, everybody? Just one point. This is what gaming is about. Look at the variety of titles that we were talking about.
Great point.
Which I think is more important.
About
Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yep.
So that's to me the most exciting thing. Like I don't like to get too caught up in a handful of other people's opinion. I mean, like I said, it would be a big deal for, I think, marketing, right? For the $2 trillion corporation, it would definitely help them out if they got some more marketing headlines, and so I think it would be a big deal to them.
Roma was important to Netflix as this would be important to.
I'm more excited for the indies to get the love than the big guy.
Yeah, and that's what I guess, like, to me, like, the biggest takeaway is, as people were talking about it, it's really whoever gets the tally, whatever. I mean, again, like, for me personally, it's not as important as the fact that we are putting all these different types of things in the conversation. And to me, that just feels completely different than where we were, like, even 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And you can start to see the landscape changing. And so I won't mind it, if the people who are voting start to give a little push more to some of this variety, some of these, some of these up and comers, in the creative industry, like we talked about before. And I think that is, it is one of the exciting stories, like we mentioned last time I was here. It is one of the more exciting stories in the industry about the fact that we are getting this variety coming back, right? And the fact that we are sitting here talking about Game of the Year, and it's not just everything's not fitting into two, 3 genres. It's a lot of different types of things, top-down games, like isometric games, and there's a lot of things, and like music. You now got high level music in these, like, small and high level actors in smaller games. It's kind of crazy. Like,
and one last point for me real quick before I give it up. the very last thing, this might actually end up being a backhanded, like, very good promotion for Game Pass.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
and
Absolutely.
hopefully, actually, in that world where Halo doesn't hit that cutoff, that would be very interesting, because usually the big guy dominates the conversation, right? Last of Us 2 being a predominant example, right? They get awards for this, awards for that, awards. So if there is no real big guy in the conversation, then it could potentially, you can see a world where this indie gets something and that indie gets something and this game gets, and guess what? They all happen to be in Game Pass, which is absolutely insane. That could be the world we see ourselves.
Unprecedented.
So it should be interesting. Yeah.
Great point. Middle-aged gamer guy, let's get your final opinion on this before we
Yes.
get everyone out of here. We are past the 2-hour mark. I'm interested to hear what you think, because everyone has knocked it out of the park. And I think that the common conversation that we've all had is perfect storm. Microsoft finds themselves sitting above all, in my opinion, and having a scale that goes from single-man developed game to AAA bomb and everything in between. And I think that if there's one man that is considered an indie, even though he's part of a $2 trillion corporation, it is, of course, Tim Schafer. He is, everyone loves him. He's passionate about it. The work that he's been done. We've heard some early preview talk on what people have seen behind closed doors, and they are completely blown away with what he has been able to do with this game. Remember, the first one came out in 2005, right? We're talking damn near 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It is very interesting, and I think that to Kei Asante's point, and of course I think OBM actually said this, when you look at what Microsoft is doing, right? They're not pushing one console, they're not pushing one franchise, they're not pushing one genre. They're saying play anywhere you want on this amazing $10 or $15 a month service. And if you could turn around as a salesman and say, we had 10 of our titles, big, small, and in between, nominated and or /1 that are in Game Pass for you to play right now, what do you think that will do?
Yeah, that's a huge thing for them. And basically, like exactly what you were saying, they're pushing an ecosystem as opposed to a box.
Yes.
Right? So they're pushing this entire field. And the thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes to that, I'm not going to get into that, but it's just that it's accessibility, right? And where they win is the accessibility, is that the fact that I can go from my couch, from playing whatever, and then I go up to my room and I still want a game, but I'm already in bed. I can go to my phone and get up and have quick resume work on my phone. And from there, I can go to a tablet. And from the tablet, I can go back to the TV seamlessly, right? And it's unbelievable what they're doing. And to have those games in there that could possibly be in the conversations for Game of the Year, winning different categories, that kind of thing, it is remarkable. And it's going to provide a huge boost. I don't know who said it earlier. I think it was OBM. We were talking about earlier about how Netflix had X amount of, I think it was like 30 million subs. Okay. And then all of a sudden it had a huge jump once they started releasing their original content, right?
Yes.
Especially original content that really stuck the landing. Yep. Right. So that's how that worked. Look at Disney Plus. Same thing. They skyrocketed to over 100 million subscribers when Mandalorian absolutely rocked everybody's world.
Yeah.
And they're like, Star Wars is back. Bang! 40 million in like a month.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy.
And so that's what they need to do, right? So, anyways, back onto this. I don't want to hold everybody too long because it's already late. However, let me get this out of the way. I heard the words so many times tonight as I was listening to you guys. Perfect storm. And here's the thing. This might be a little bit more philosophical as opposed to breaking it down. However, I don't want Xbox to win games of the year, game of the year, win categories because Sony's not there. And what I mean by Sony not being there is that they don't...
The asterisk here. Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't want them to win like that. I want them to win games of the year when they're going up against God of War.
Exactly.
I want them to win game of the year over Last of Us 3. Mm-hmm. That's what they have to strive for, not hope that Sony F's up or whatever. They just didn't, their timetables didn't work out because of COVID.
Yes.
Okay, or whatever the hell they're up to, okay? Or false promises, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But I'm just going to say, you don't want that to be the reason why Xbox wins. And it's not because I'm worried about some fanboys or something. I don't care about them. You know what I mean? Whatever. Nobody listens to
No,
them.
in general, that should be the goal. Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
the goal is that you want to be able to stack yourself up, because then if you don't, no one is going to respect you if the next year you come in with big titles and you get smashed by Sony. That just shows that you didn't have the chops to be able to go up against the big guns, the big AAA guns of Sony. That's when I want them to win.
Yeah, but you know what?
that's just a side
Someone,
point.
you know what? That's a great point. You're onto something, but someone, not me, because I look at the broader picture.
Yeah.
But there is a community out there that would suggest that if Sony did have their horse in the race, that Microsoft would not be given a fair vote, would not be given the fair
that's
shake, if
possible
you could.
too.
And again, I'm not saying that's what happens. I'm saying
Hey,
that is
you-
certainly a part of the conversation.
It is, because it's a popularity contest at the end of the day. It always is.
Hey,
It doesn't matter, even if it's the Academy Awards, they still have friends and people that are emotionally and invested in certain people, certain whatever. Steven Spielberg comes up, he instantly gets nominated for Film of the Year. You know what I'm
that's the
saying?
thing. That's the one caveat to all this, because there's not like a standard, right? Like you don't know what the priorities of the people that are voting are.
Exactly.
If they prioritize narrative, do they prioritize gameplay? Is it innovation? So and I think really it's going to be different for everybody. So what you're really just getting is sort of like an average of like whatever the priorities the people they pick is. I think, like, to your point though, Mag, I think that's what we want. We just want that. We want games that deserve to be in the conversation.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's
they're
what
just
I'm
good
hoping.
at. They're good enough to be argued for. They're good enough that you could say that in any year this is something that should be in the conversation.
Exactly.
And
not
that's
just
all it is,
because other people were absent.
But all that being said, though, a win is a win.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Oh, a win is a win. A win is
Let's
a
be
win.
clear.
But like
If you get the
Asante
chip,
said, I don't want an
you got the
asterisk
chip.
next to it. I don't want an asterisk next to it. That's all.
Hey,
I'm saying.
there's no asterisks. You
No.
won or you didn't win.
Fair enough.
Done.
Fair enough. And then you know what? The general public. Well, actually, you know what? Let's face it. The general public. Most of them are not even watching the Game Awards anyway. They don't even know what the hell it
They
is.
watch it for the commercials. We don't.
Yeah,
we didn't
they
even
do.
remember
Yeah, but
who
those are
won that
gamers,
most.
though,
like the Super
OBM.
Bowl.
I'm talking about the guys, the 80 million out of the 120 Sony fans and the 30 million out of the 60, whatever it is, Xbox One fans and all that kind of stuff. I'm ignoring these numbers for this gen. Okay? They don't even know what the hell's going on. Do you think they even know that primetime gaming is on right now?
No.
Do they even know who Dealer Gaming is? They have no clue. They just go out, they buy a game because they know the name.
And
or they
we
see an
also,
ad
we
while
also
they're watching
look
a football
after,
game.
and
Eh?
us as gamers, we look forward to these new announcements, because that's what Jeff's managed to bring into this Game Awards thing.
Right. And that's
his unveilings.
it's still us doing that, right? So
Yep,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
anyways, let me give you my quick breakdown. This is what I'm thinking. Forza Horizon 5, absolutely going to win. There's no question. The flight simulator thing, yeah, I think that because it already released last year and won, I don't think it will be even in the because if you put that in the category, then you'd have to put in, the
Ghost of
director's
Tsushima
cut
and
of
Death
Ghost of
Stranding.
Tsushima.
Yeah. I
Right.
gotcha.
So I
Right.
think they're going to keep it out. So I guess Lawnmower Simulator is going to win. You know what? I played that game twice last week in my own backyard. Graphics were amazing, by the way. And it was in,
Car wash, I did.
60 FPS. There was no stuttering.
Ray tracing and everything.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
the ray tracing was great off my glasses. Yeah. So, anyways, I guess that's winning. Now, the other thing is that the indie thing. I agree with absolutely what everybody was saying about the games that could be up for indie game of the year. It Takes Two might be that big one, but there's another one. This is my dark horse, okay? And it's not Psychonauts, not any of those. Those are my dark horse. The dark horse, no pun intended, is Little Nightmares 2.
Yeah,
Little
that's a
Nightmares
good one,
2 is an
dude.
absolutely remarkable game. Here's the thing. You want to talk about like what we were talking about earlier, what all you guys were talking about, the emotional impact of a game in terms of like the entertainment value, how it's able to like, the medium is able to like portray that onto the player. It's a little bit more difficult than sitting down and watching a Hollywood film, right?
Yeah.
So a Hollywood film, you sit down, you watch it, you laugh, you cry, you scream, whatever, right? Because it's being presented to you. To present a story and give you emotional impact or affect you emotionally is much more difficult because generally you're in control of the narrative, right? But
Right.
Little Nightmares 2 somehow was able to do that without one goddamn word being said
Yeah.
in the
That's
entire
another one.
game, but yet it was so stunningly disturbing and sad and depressing and amazing at the same time. If anybody overlooks that, that's an absolute travesty. It's got to be in the conversation. Little Nightmares 2 is my choice. Now, Ratchet and Psychonauts, here's the thing. Psychonauts absolutely has to knock it out of the park with the critics. If it doesn't stand a chance against a Sony first-party game. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Ratchet and Clank rolls off the tongue because they've been there before. Sony's got the pedigree and everything else. So, yes, Tim Schafer, absolute genius. Games, excellent. Story, excellent. But he has to be able to penetrate that.
I think he
critics.
will, just based on the fact that he is considered an indie darling of this community, dude.
And I really hope he does. And it's going to be really tough to go up against that Ratchet. And it's not because Ratchet's better. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying that I think it's tougher for them is because you're fighting an uphill battle against a company that's been sitting at the top of the hill, right? So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be much more difficult for them. Halo, my last thing, and then, then we could stop this. Halo. The problem with Halo is that if they launch towards the 20th anniversary, you are going to miss the cutoff. The cutoff is anywhere between November 14th and November 16th, if I'm not mistaken. And that is what happened with Jedi Fallen Order. They got screwed.
Yeah, they did.
And Jedi Fallen Order, I think, fell on the day of the cutoff or the day after the cutoff.
No, day of. Day of.
Was it the day of?
Yeah,
okay.
it was,
and they got screwed. And then guess what? By next year, God of War came out. Spider-Man came out. And whatever, and then they got lost.
And nobody even thought about them in the conversation.
Exactly, it wasn't even a part of the conversation. So, so they got to see. But at the same time, I don't think Microsoft is sitting there going, "Oh shoot, we got to worry about the game of the year situation." They're worried about putting out a damn good game.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if they can make $1 billion off that game, who gives a rat's ass what the hell? What's his face over there is doing?
Geoff Keighley.
Hideo Kojima's boyfriend. I always forget his name. Jeff Keighley. Sorry. Wow. It like escaped me for half a second. So, yeah. So, like, I think they're more worried about putting out a good game because putting out a good game and making a lot of money, which is what they're doing. Why else are they doing this, right? They're doing that because in the end, in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, people don't even remember what the game of the year was. All they remember is that it was a good game. Fortnite was never put in Game of the Year, but guess what? They're making billions. So that's all they care about. So I think that would be their number one priority. So I think that Halo may miss that cutoff. I tried to look up the cutoff and I couldn't find it for this year because maybe this year it might be different. They might have changed it. Yeah,
well, so last year with Cyberpunk, before we all knew what it ended up being, they released on November 10th, or was it the 19th? Whenever November 10th or 19th was too late for that. Or no, was it December 10th they released?
Yeah,
it was December 10th.
They released in December, so they were well off the cutoff.
Okay.
But the thing is, I think Game of the Year, if Halo gets in there, Halo's got to hit. And what I mean by that is not the multiplayer. I'm talking about the story. And the thing is, OBM
100%.
said it earlier in the show. He said that the games that generally win, not all of them, and of course I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like generally win the ones that they're able to mimic the Hollywood style emotion. It's something I was just talking about a few minutes ago. They have to be able to reach those people on an emotional level that really affects them, like Last of Us 2. Whether you love it or hate the story, it made me cry. It made me put the controller down and leave the room when faced with certain choices that I didn't want to make because I was emotionally invested. Halo's got to hit on that level for when people put that controller down and go, wow, now that was a story. What a great story. Because then what happens there is that it affects the multiplayer situation, but then you look at the entire package. If the story is great, it makes you feel more invested to play the rest of the game. And that's something that happened. Here, I'll give you a quick example before we get on out of here. Okay, Battlefront 2 came out. I was all excited. Never mind the pay to win, all that nonsense, whatever else. Okay, the game came out, and I was like, I'm ready to play this. And then Last Jedi came out, and Last Jedi literally pissed in my cornflakes where I was like, I can't touch this game. I can't touch this game anymore. Star Wars for me is now officially ruined. I can't touch this game. So the thing is, I know it sounds stupid.
You hear that, Kay?
But what I'm trying to say is this, is that, What I'm trying to say is that the story has to hit
Sad,
so
sad
hard
man.
is that it will make people more emotionally invested to play the multiplayer and then look at the entire package and say, that's a game of the year contender right there. So it has to hit. The story's got to hit. So anyways, other than that, I think if Halo, for whatever reason, does not win or does not get in, I still think game of the year is going to be It Takes Two.
All right. I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting. Real quick, let me catch up with some of the super chats and we'll get to the outro. Sir X-Men dropped several $2 super chats. Thank you for the generosity, my brother. The first one, it says, for Halo Infinite to get an award, it must release early. And yeah, we've heard October, we've heard September. We'll see. We'll definitely see. He says on the second one, I'm going to watch the G4 Awards instead. #fact. Then he has another one. Why is everyone forgetting about Battlefield 2042? That's not winning any awards. I can tell you that right now. It's just not. It doesn't have a single player campaign, and that pissed off a lot of people. But again, who knows? Dan Lazaro drops an additional $5 in chat and says, "Nah, Everborn. PS dudes be talking S for an entire generation. If Xbox sweeps, we're gonna be unbearable."
Soldiers out. The
No,
soldiers is
I-
out.
I know, but I want to be. I want
Come get your boy.
I want to stick my flag in the ground and say we said this. I spent all this time saying I don't care if Halo gets nominated for the game of the year. It just needs to be a Halo-ass Halo. That's what they're giving me. So I'm not gonna come and throw it in your face and say, "Ha, pony." We did it. I can't do that. I can't
And
keep my
speaking-
intellectual honesty and do that.
And
But I
speaking
understand
of
the urge.
opponents, we have God, the Blessed One, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, so they're going to charge ponies for Bloodborne all over again for first person ? Did that happen? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I saw it today. They are talking about someone. No, it was a modder was able to put it into first person mode, and apparently it's going to be playable. I don't know if that's sanctioned by Sony or just a solo project.
Yeah. I mean, they'll make a lot of money on that $70 game because people are going to buy it, and I won't buy it. That is for sure. We have Spider-Man drops a very generous $5 super chat and says the Suicide Squad was disappointing to me. Poor pacing. I didn't like the team dynamic. David Ayers' Suicide Squad was more interesting. Just
Absolutely
one man's opinion.
You should come to Thursday's show.
Yeah,
we can hash that out
on the real, baby.
But you are wrong, sir.
I don't know who are the stands for Masters of the Universe. New one. I'm gonna tell you something right now. Mrs. Boomstick, die-hard He-Man fan, not She-Ra. He-Man. That was her dude back in the days, right? We put on episode 1. And 15 minutes in, she's like, if you make me watch this any further, it's like nails on a chalkboard. The voice acting, terrible. Check. She didn't like the artwork. She thought it was very too anime for her, but she gives it a big thumbs down. I'm gonna have to watch that solo, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Man, she said it. A lot of naggy characters. Like the voice acting was very naggy. Everyone was kind of a nag. It was crazy. But anyway, folks, this has been a great 2+ hours, 2.5 hours almost after outros, and one bad mother. Thank you so much for joining us, brother. You gave us a show as always. Great to have you a part of tonight's program. 2 topics in. Everyone had incredible points. Do me a favor, brother. Sell your brand. Talk about Xbox Era. The other great place to hang out and check out Xbox news with, of course, John and special Nick and yourself. And also, where can people reach out to you on social media, and where could they check out your articles that you're writing for the site?
Well, thank you so much, Boo. I appreciate all the promotion already. Thanks again for having me. It's a lot of fun talking to you guys about, some of the exciting things happening in the industry, and especially on the Xbox. As somebody who's been on this platform, it's been my, primary platform since about 3 weeks after the OG launched, and I played Halo on a kiosk at GameStop, and then I had to kind of mislead my now ex-wife as to why how I ended up with an Xbox instead of a Ring. But getting back to where you guys could find me.
That's a story. We need to hear that one day.
Okay, hear about that.
So, So yeah,
Moving
I've been here
quickly
for a long
along.
time. I've been here for a long time. You know, Halo is my still my favorite franchise of all time. It's probably why I focused on it. You know, with our Game of the Year awards, and we do have by the way, we do have a Halo podcast as part of like a little a sideshow from Xbox Era. You can find me at You Had Me at Halo. It usually goes on about every other week, although we try to line it up with some of the news releases as well. So we should be back on again next week. So just come and visit us there if you are a Halo fan. Xbox Era, just if you guys like talking about Xbox specifically without really the system war stuff, we really try to stamp that out of the forums. You just want to come there and talk about, you know, some of the games, Game Pass, what we think is going to happen at the end of acquisition season. Come and visit us over there, and there's a lot of good topics and a really great community. Obviously, you can just visit our site where I am a senior editor over there. So I am actually working on an article right now that I interviewed Joe from Song of Iron, who's been on your show a couple times. Yep. And so I'm going to tie that into an article about the presence of indie developers and the importance to them with Game Pass and really just the industry, this upcoming generation. So look for that hopefully in the next week or so. That should be out. But thank you. Oh, and if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at OneBadMother at mother_1. So nice. You can find me there. Thank you so much, Boom. Appreciate the time and platform to talk.
Definitely appreciate you being here. And of course, middle-aged gamer guy, brother. Let's get you on out of here. Tell everyone where they could reach out to you, strike up a conversation, potentially get yelled at, and also what else you got going on, especially in the music business. We hearing some big things coming your way.
Yeah, we're going to be working on some interesting things with some Ubisoft works and something. Well, we already did something with Sony Santa Monica and sent it off to the bear himself and to see what he thought about some of the work that my brother is doing and with Pulse Music Media. So there's that. But anyways, besides that, we had a great show tonight. OBM. Yeah. You're awesome, dude. As always, you're practically like a part of the family now. It's amazing.
Yeah,
we can just follow each other around.
Well, guys, if you want, you can follow me on Twitter at the Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end, of course. On the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, you can find me at all one word, all capitals, because I don't know how to be quiet. I am the Mag, and of course, you can find me here every Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick XL and friends. And, of course, Tuesday night. And, boy, do we have a show tomorrow night on Gaming After Dark, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday with Noof Nukem, Titan Drago, and our guest tomorrow night. That's right. You heard it here first. It's the Ashen Luca and the Mooch are going to be on the show.
Hey,
that's right. The Mag, the Mooch, Ashen Luca, Titan Drago, and Noof. If you guys aren't in this chat, I don't know what the hell you're doing on a Tuesday night.
How's the Mooch and the Mag in the same place at the same time? I didn't think that was possible.
Oh, I'm taking his head off tomorrow night.
You know what? This is you know what this is like having. This is like having Peter Parker standing next to someone in a spider suit. I don't know about.
It's weird. I'm not convinced that's real. That's real.
Yes.
Trust me, there are two of us. Yeah.
Well, but, I don't know how the world could handle the two of you because I'm gonna be honest. I thought I find out
tomorrow night, I guess. But either way, that's what's going on there. And last but not least, of course, now that I mentioned Twitter a little earlier, but keep an eye out, folks, because I got some pretty ridiculous videos coming this week.
I can't wait.
I've already filmed 2 of them, and my neighbors are probably starting to wonder if I need to go to the psych ward. So, anyways, either way, guys, everybody have a great night. Well, thank you guys all, and we'll see you all next week.
Dad, thank you so much for that. Real quick, Sir X-Man drops another $2 tubes on says Battlefield 2042 does have a single player campaign. I'll send you the vid. I mean, it has a story in the multiplayer, but it's certainly not a standard single player campaign like they have had in the past, which is I'm disappointed about. But again, that's a horse of another color. Kay Asante, again, we got to talk about you and Everborn Sagas on the Reel, as well as the Gaming Circle podcast, 2 podcasts that I have listened to myself. I've been a part of one of them. On the Reel, I'm going to have to get in on one of your conversations because you have some good ones, and I'd like to be a part of it. Talk about those 2 shows, and where can people sign up to your YouTube channel, and more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. As usual, the panel always knocking it out the box as they do. OBM coming in here, making us even better than we usually are. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Always awesome to have discussions with you. As the aforementioned podcast, you can find me usually trying to be the straight guy to the slanderer himself on the reel this week. This Thursday, we will be continuing the conversation. I think we'll be talking about another episode of What If. Among others, I'm trying to get the guys together to do an F9 review. That should be interesting.
I
haven't gotten there yet.
I have been like,
I'm looking forward to that one, baby.
To watch that movie.
Oh man,
boy. It's gonna happen.
And boom, I think you should possibly, maybe do some binging of Masters of the Universe, and we can have a conversation after that.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to hear your take.
They're
on
only
it,
30 minutes, so it's easy to
yeah. You know, I can understand.
It's
Yeah,
like
I know,
watching
without
a
the
movie if you
commercials.
watch it straight, because it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
You can sit down and watch it like a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. So yes, y'all can find me TKO Asante on Twitter, on Xbox, on PlayStation, and on Sundays we do the Gaming Circle. Last weekend,
Saturday.
Saturday. I apologize. I'm all over the place this week. Saturday we do the Gaming Circle. Last Saturday, Mr. Slow Mo Backslap graced us with his presence, and we had a lot of interesting PC chats. We will continue more conversation. I'm trying to get as many of the different perspectives on as we can. So look forward to more interesting folks to jump on when we can get them. So thank you guys who were able to check it out. Those who have not checked it out can always do so on the YouTubes. And that is actually, you can actually go now find it on youtube.com/The Gaming Circle Podcast, because I have actually set up that URL because I can do that now.
Wait, hold on a minute now. So you have TKO Asante everywhere.
Oh Lord,
but
here
on
we go.
YouTube,
No. Actually, there's 2 aliases.
Different.
No.
Okay.
Remember, aliases. You can do multiples. Shut your mouth.
All right.
Anyway, thank you so much.
All right. Don't get me started.
I love the saying, shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
There you go. What he said. That's right. Thank you so much.
How about this one? I heard you twice the first time.
I like that. Everborn Saga. Let's get you on out of here, brother, and then we'll get to Wandering Dutch. Talk about where people could check out the Everborn Saga, and more importantly, where could people support your work on places like Amazon.com to buy the book, and more importantly, where could people reach out to you on social media?
Well, so funny you should bring up Amazon. I recommend everyone who is ordering the anything from the sort of Everborn Saga, any of the books, we release them on Amazon as well for the purpose of international buyers. So if you're in Canada, if you're in Europe, if you're in anywhere else that is not the United States, I do recommend you go to Amazon. We don't make a lot of money from that, but I do want people to get the books, and Amazon is better at shipping than I can be. That said, everyone else, I do recommend going to everbornsaga.com. And when you go there, all the books get handled by me personally. I ship them all out myself. They all come signed. There's a thank you note. It's a very nice package. I'm sure some people can attest to the packaging there if you got it. So Everborn Saga
tells no lies. I can attest.
See? So it's not really slander. But anyway, but yeah, everbornsaga.com is where you can get stuff like this shirt. You can get stuff like the Everborn cap, because I'm a capologist according to Slow-Mo. And you can get stuff like that wall art behind me. But most importantly, you can get the books, which is what it's all about. We are 3 chapters into Prince of Arcadia. Chapter 4 is coming out this month. We are 1 chapter into Ariel's Adventure. All different series following different characters, all in the same story. It is my version of the MCU, but if with a anime manga tint to it. And the best way to describe it is Game of Thrones meets X-Men. So think about that. Fun stuff. And Everborn Saga on Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, you name it, YouTube, where you can do On the Reel. And, we do Gaming Circle on Saturday. So thanks, everybody. Lots, OBM, great to podcast with you again. And check out, he did an article, amazing article. If you're into Halo, he did one on the Xbox Era site that sort of breaks down the entire beta, what we experienced and what we can look forward towards to Halo. So somebody share that in the chat. I'll share it in the chat. But nice. Great article. So and thanks Kay, thanks Boom, Mag, Dutch, great show. and be better. That's it. I'm done.
And certainly no way least, Wandering Dutch, brother, you got a show coming up this week. Talk about where people could check out your incredible YouTube channel. Add to the collection of 1,000 subscribers. Let's get you to 5,000. Obviously, you do great work in this community, not so much just with us, but you are constantly working with the indie gamer and the indie community at large. Talk about how you do that and where can people check you out on social media.
Definitely. Before I get into all that, though, massive thank you again to One Bad Mother for joining us again. Awesome to have you on. Great podcast with you once more. Again, to our awesome panel, Asante, Everborn, and Middle-Ager Game Guy. Unbelievable panel, as always. Really great opinions. Of course, always contrasting and kind of keeping each other, bringing each other more information as well every week to discuss, which is great. You can find me on Twitter at Wondering Dutch and at YouTube at Wondering Dutch. And again, our podcast is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. BST. That's 2 p.m. EST. We do run, as Boom has mentioned, something called the Community Indie Showcase.
Yeah.
Which is essentially once a year, and that is because of kind of the level of work we try to put into it, which is to get creators from around the community, large and small, to provide a lot of indie titles that you may not have seen. Now, some of the titles I've actually just started releasing on Game Pass this year, such as Curse of the Dead Gods, which was one of the ones that was showcased on Community Indie Showcase as well earlier this year. But we had 75 titles showcased last year, some of them of which are either in early development or still being developed. We had communities, well, we had Joe from A Song of Fire, we had Thomas Sala, we had the developers from Caves and the Wild Masks providing a code to give away for that. This year, or at least the next one for that, is going to be even bigger, even better. We've already started work with indie developers to showcase their games and or provide codes to give away as well. That's as awesome. Part of that. So it is absolutely awesome. And of course, what I've always stated is we wouldn't be here where we are today in gaming if it wasn't for indies in the first place. Every studio started off as an indie developer at some point in their life cycle before they were acquired by big conglomerates. And there are still many amazing indies out there that need to be showcased that might not be getting the limelight that they deserve. So we will always showcase their work, and we're going to do it in the best possible light. And of course, next year, we hope to expand that further with some more awesome community creators and some amazing indie games. But yeah, thank you everybody for jumping on tonight. We will see you all again next week.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Listen, I want to say a big thank you to all the super chats that came in. You continue to allow Mrs. Boomstick and myself to do these big giveaways. And the next one is coming on the 31st of August, folks. That is the Xbox Factor podcast. That is the last show of the month. Obviously, the next day is September 1st. And to celebrate Joe from Song of Iron's incredible journey, we are going to be giving away 10 copies of Song of Iron, which I think is going to definitely be one of those games that we're all going to be talking about at the end of this year. It looks amazing. I cannot wait to review it. And of course, it's our way of giving back. And we can do that with the super chats and the channel membership that continue to come in. So thank you so much.
To add to that as well, Boom,
yeah,
alongside your 10, I'm also giving away 4.
There you go. That's awesome. See, again, and I think I love seeing the smaller channels give away these games to help support these indie developers. I think it's super, super important that we do that. And you don't have to be rich to do it. You just have to have a couple extra ducats. And thankfully, I will be in a position to do so thanks to the super chats that have come in. But of course, I'm going to close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that our dad taught us when we were kids, and we're better men for it. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.